This is one of the most dramatic skulls from our prehistoric planet. It belonged to a plant-eating dinosaur called Triceratops.
The story of dinosaurs does not begin with dinosaurs themselves. It begins with devastation on a planetary scale. Around 252 million years ago, Earth experienced the greatest mass extinction in its history, an event known as the Permian extinction. More than 90% of marine species vanished. On land, entire ecosystems collapsed. Forests disappeared. Rivers ran through barren landscapes. For millions of years afterward, the planet remained wounded, unstable, and hostile to complex life. This catastrophe cleared the stage for a new evolutionary experiment, one that would eventually give rise to the dinosaurs. Before the extinction, life on land was dominated by synapsids, reptile-like animals that were ancestors of mammals. They filled many ecological roles, from large herbivores to apex predators. But the Permian extinction wiped out most of them. The causes were not a single event, but a chain reaction of disasters. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. Global temperatures rose dramatically, oceans became acidic and oxygen poor. On land, extreme heat and drought destroyed plant life, collapsing food chains from the bottom up. When the dust finally settled, Earth entered a long recovery phase known as the early Triassic. This was not a time of abundance. It was a world of survival. Temperatures were still high. Oxygen levels were low. Ecosystems were simple and fragile. The animals that survived were not necessarily stronger or smarter, but more adaptable. They were small, resilient, and capable of enduring harsh conditions. Evolution during this period was shaped not by competition, but by endurance. As life slowly returned, a new group of reptiles began to diversify. These were the Archosaurs, a lineage that would later split into crocodilians, pterosaurs, and dinosaurs. Early Archosaurs were not yet dominant. They lived alongside surviving synapsids and other reptiles, but they possessed several key traits that would eventually give them an advantage. Their legs were positioned more directly beneath their bodies, unlike the sprawling posture of many earlier reptiles. This posture allowed more efficient movement and reduced energy loss. In a world where resources were scarce, efficiency mattered. The climate of the Triassic played a crucial role in shaping this evolutionary path. The supercontinent Pangaea dominated the planet, stretching from pole to pole. This massive landmass created extreme seasonal climates. Interiors were hot and dry, with vast deserts. Coastlines experienced monsoons and sudden floods. Animals that could move long distances, regulate their body temperature more effectively, and exploit different environments had a higher chance of survival. Archosaurs fit this profile well. Another important factor was oxygen. During the early Triassic, atmospheric oxygen levels were significantly lower than today. This limited the size and activity levels of many animals. But over time, as plant life recovered and spread, oxygen levels gradually increased. This shift allowed for higher metabolic rates and more active lifestyles. Archosaurs, with their upright posture and efficient lungs, were well suited to take advantage of this change. While dinosaurs had not yet appeared, the foundation for their rise was already being laid. Evolution does not work toward a goal. It responds to pressure. And the pressures of the post-extinction world favored certain traits: speed over bulk, endurance over brute strength, adaptability over specialization. These pressures quietly shaped the ancestors of dinosaurs long before the first true dinosaur walked the earth. Competition during this time was limited but growing. Surviving synapsids attempted to reclaim their former dominance, evolving into new forms. Some became herbivores, others predators. But many of them retained slower metabolisms and sprawling gaits. In contrast, Archosaurs continued to refine their upright stance. Their hip and ankle joints evolved to support sustained movement. This gave them an edge in chasing prey or escaping danger over long distances. The Triassic world was also marked by instability. Volcanic activity continued, climates shifted rapidly, ecosystems collapsed and reformed again and again. Such instability tends to punish highly specialized organisms and favor flexible ones. Archosaurs diversified into many experimental forms. Some were small insect eaters, others were large predators. Some lived near water, others thrived in dry interiors. Among these experiments, one lineage would eventually cross a critical threshold. That threshold was the emergence of true dinosaurs. Paleontologists define dinosaurs not just by size or appearance, but by specific anatomical features. These include an open hip socket, allowing legs to move directly beneath the body, and particular arrangements of bones in the pelvis and ankle. These traits allowed more efficient locomotion and greater endurance. The first animals to possess this full combination appeared in the late Triassic, around 230 million years ago. But their success was not immediate. Early dinosaurs were small and rare. They lived in the shadows of other archosaurs, including large crocodile-like predators that dominated many ecosystems. Dinosaurs were not yet rulers of the land. They were marginal players, surviving through speed, agility, and ecological flexibility rather than dominance. Another turning point came with environmental change. Toward the end of the Triassic, the planet experienced another wave of extinctions, though far smaller than the Permian event. This time, many of the large, non-dinosaur archosaurs disappeared. The causes likely included massive volcanic eruptions associated with the breakup of Pangaea. Once again, carbon dioxide levels spiked, climate shifted, and ecosystems were disrupted. Dinosaurs survived this crisis. More importantly, many of their competitors did not. When the Jurassic period began, dinosaurs found themselves in a world suddenly full of opportunity. Empty ecological niches awaited. Predators were scarce. Herbivore roles were unfilled. The same traits that had once allowed dinosaurs to merely survive now allowed them to expand rapidly. Looking back, the rise of dinosaurs was not a sudden triumph, but the result of deep time and repeated catastrophe. Without the Permian extinction, synapsids might have continued to dominate. Without the harsh Triassic climate, archosaurs might never have evolved their efficient posture. Without repeated environmental upheaval, dinosaurs might have remained minor players in a crowded world. This pattern reveals a deeper truth about evolution. Dominance is often born from disaster. Mass extinctions do not simply erase life, they reshape the rules of survival. They favor different traits, different strategies, different body plans. Dinosaurs were not inherently destined to rule the planet. They were shaped by a broken world, molded by scarcity, heat, and instability. In this sense, dinosaurs were children of apocalypse. Their evolutionary success was forged in the aftermath of Earth's greatest catastrophe. They inherited a planet stripped of its former rulers, a landscape of extremes, and an atmosphere slowly recovering from collapse. By adapting to these conditions, they set the stage for one of the most extraordinary evolutionary stories in the history of life. As the Triassic drew to a close, the foundation was complete. Dinosaurs were no longer just survivors. They were ready to diversify, to grow larger, to dominate ecosystems across the globe. The age of dinosaurs was about to begin, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most adaptable heirs of a shattered world. To understand how dinosaurs truly emerged, it is necessary to step deeper into their ancestry. Dinosaurs did not appear suddenly or in isolation. They were part of a broader evolutionary lineage known as the Archosaurs, a group of reptiles that rose to prominence after the Permian extinction. Archosaurs were not a single uniform type of animal. They were a diverse and experimental group shaped by a world still recovering from near total collapse. The word Archosaur means ruling reptile, but in their early history, Archosaurs were far from rulers. During the early and middle Triassic, they were one group among many struggling to survive. Alongside them lived synapsids, early turtles, amphibians, and numerous other reptilian forms. What set Archosaurs apart was not dominance, but potential. One of the most important distinctions between Archosaurs and other reptiles was posture. Earlier reptiles typically had sprawling limbs with legs extending out to the sides of the body. This posture limited speed and endurance and required more energy to move. Archosaurs began to evolve a more upright stance, with limbs positioned more directly beneath the body. This change may seem subtle, but it had profound consequences. It allowed more efficient locomotion, better balance, and the ability to move for longer periods without exhaustion. This upright posture also changed how Archosaurs breathed. Many Archosaurs developed more efficient lung systems, allowing for better oxygen intake. In a low-oxygen world, this was a critical advantage. Efficient breathing supported higher activity levels and faster recovery after exertion. Over time, this physiological edge would become one of the defining features inherited by dinosaurs. Early Archosaurs diversified rapidly into multiple lineages. One branch would eventually give rise to crocodilians, animals that today retain a semi-upright posture and many ancient traits. Another branch led to pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight. A third branch would lead to dinosaurs. At this stage, however, these branches were not yet clearly defined. Evolution was experimenting. These early Archosaurs came in many forms. Some were small, fast-moving predators. Others were larger, heavily built hunters with massive skulls. Some walked on 4 legs, others on 2. The Triassic landscape was a testing ground, and natural selection favored whatever worked in a given environment. One crucial split within Archosaurs was between the Pseudoseuchians and the Avametatarsalia. Pseudoseuchians included the ancestors of crocodiles, and many now extinct crocodile-like predators. During much of the Triassic, Pseudoseuchians were dominant. They filled apex predator roles and were often larger and more powerful than early dinosaurs. Avametatarsalia, the group that would include dinosaurs and pterosaurs, were generally smaller and more lightly built. This imbalance challenges the idea that dinosaurs were immediately superior. For millions of years, they were overshadowed by other Archosaurs. What allowed them to persist was not raw strength, but flexibility. Avametatarsalia tended to be faster, more agile, and more energy efficient. They could exploit niches that larger predators could not. The skeletal structure of early dinosaur ancestors reveals this clearly. Their ankles evolved into a hinge-like structure that allowed efficient forward motion. Their hips became specialized for sustained running. Their tails stiffened, acting as counterbalances that stabilized the body during movement. These adaptations favored speed and endurance over ambush strength. Another key factor was growth strategy. Many archosaurs, particularly those closer to dinosaurs, showed evidence of faster growth rates. Instead of growing slowly over many years, they could reach maturity more quickly. This allowed populations to recover faster after environmental disturbances and reduced vulnerability during juvenile stages. Diet also played a role. Early archosaurs were not locked into a single feeding strategy. Some were carnivorous, others omnivorous, and some began experimenting with herbivory. This dietary flexibility was essential in unstable ecosystems where food sources could disappear suddenly. Dinosaurs inherited this flexibility, which later allowed them to diversify into nearly every terrestrial feeding niche. The Triassic world itself continued to shape Archosaur evolution. Pangaea's vast deserts favored animals that could travel long distances in search of food and water. Seasonal extremes rewarded those that could regulate activity levels and cope with temperature swings. Archosaurs, with their efficient movement and respiratory systems, were well suited to these demands. Meanwhile, synapsids, though still present, struggled to compete in this changing world. Many retained sprawling postures and lower endurance. While some synapsids survived and eventually gave rise to mammals, they lost their former ecological dominance. The balance of power was shifting, though slowly and unevenly. Fossil evidence shows that early dinosaur ancestors were often minor components of their ecosystems. They lived alongside much larger predators and herbivores. Their survival depended on avoiding competition rather than confronting it. Small size, agility, and opportunistic behavior were their tools. This long period of evolutionary background is critical to understanding dinosaurs. They were not born as giants. They were not initially apex predators. They were refined by millions of years of marginal existence, shaped by constant pressure from competitors and environment alike. When extinction events struck near the end of the Triassic, these traits proved decisive. Many large pseudo-Suchians disappeared. Ecosystems were once again reset. Dinosaurs, already adapted for efficiency and rapid growth, were able to expand into the empty spaces left behind. The Archosaur story shows that dinosaur evolution was not about replacing inferior animals with superior ones. It was about shifting conditions and changing rules. Traits that once kept dinosaurs in the background became advantages when the environment changed. Evolution rewarded those who could adapt, not those who were strongest at any single moment. By the time true dinosaurs emerged as a distinct group, their foundation was already deeply rooted in Archosaur evolution. Their posture, metabolism, respiratory efficiency, and growth strategies were inherited, not invented. Dinosaurs were the result of a long evolutionary conversation between anatomy and environment. This perspective reframes the age of dinosaurs not as an abrupt rise of dominance, but as the delayed outcome of earlier evolutionary experiments. Archosaurs were the architects. Dinosaurs were one of their most successful designs, and that success was built quietly over millions of years in a world still healing from catastrophe. The emergence of the first true dinosaurs marks one of the most important turning points in the history of life on land. This transition did not happen suddenly, nor did it involve a dramatic transformation overnight. Instead, dinosaurs emerged gradually from a population of Archosaur ancestors, crossing a subtle anatomical threshold that would later define an entire era of Earth's history. These early dinosaurs were small, lightly built, and easily overlooked, yet their anatomy carried the blueprint for future dominance. During the late Triassic, around 230 million years ago, ecosystems across Pangaea were complex but unstable. Large crocodile-like archosaurs dominated many regions, while smaller reptiles filled the margins. It was within these margins that the first dinosaurs appeared. They were not giants. Most were no larger than a dog or small deer. Their survival depended on speed, awareness, and efficiency rather than strength. What defines a true dinosaur is not size, intelligence, or ferocity, but a specific combination of skeletal traits. One of the most important was the structure of the hip. Dinosaurs evolved an open hip socket, allowing the head of the femur to fit directly into the pelvis. This configuration positioned the legs directly beneath the body, creating a fully upright stance. This change improved balance and made sustained movement far more efficient. The ankle joint was another defining feature. Early dinosaurs developed a hinge-like ankle that limited side-to-side motion and emphasized forward movement. This made running more efficient and reduced energy loss. Combined with a long, stiffened tail acting as a counterbalance, dinosaurs could move quickly and smoothly even over long distances. Early dinosaurs were primarily bipedal. Walking on two legs freed the forelimbs for other functions, such as grasping prey or manipulating objects. Bipedalism also reduced the energy cost of locomotion and improved visibility in open environments. These advantages were particularly important in the Triassic world, where predators and prey often needed to travel far to find resources. Among the earliest known dinosaurs were small, carnivorous forms that hunted insects and small vertebrates. Their skulls were lightly built, with sharp, serrated teeth designed for slicing flesh. Their eyes faced forward, providing depth perception that improved hunting accuracy. These predators relied on quick bursts of speed rather than prolonged chases. But even at this early stage, dinosaurs were not a single ecological type. While many early forms were carnivorous, others began experimenting with omnivory and herbivory. Changes in tooth shape and jaw mechanics suggest that some early dinosaurs fed on plants or a mixed diet. This flexibility allowed dinosaurs to exploit a wider range of food sources than many of their competitors. Growth patterns also set dinosaurs apart. Our fossilized bone tissue reveals that many early dinosaurs grew faster than other reptiles. Instead of growing slowly throughout life, they experienced periods of rapid growth. This strategy reduced the amount of time juveniles spent in vulnerable size ranges and allowed populations to rebound quickly after environmental disturbances. Metabolism played a role as well. While dinosaurs were not fully warm-blooded in the mammalian sense, evidence suggests they had higher metabolic rates than most reptiles of their time. This intermediate metabolism supported sustained activity and faster growth without the high energy demands of true endothermy. In fluctuating Triassic climates, this balance was advantageous. Early dinosaurs lived in a world still dominated by non-dinosaur archosaurs. Large predators occupied the top of the food chain, and massive herbivores shaped the landscape. Dinosaurs were not yet rulers. They survived by avoiding direct competition. They hunted smaller prey, fed at different times, or occupied habitats less favored by larger animals. This marginal existence may have been crucial. It allowed dinosaurs to refine their adaptations without being locked into rigid ecological roles. Natural selection favored versatility. Those dinosaurs that could move efficiently, grow quickly, and adapt their diets survived. Those that could not disappeared. Environmental pressures continued to reshape ecosystems. Volcanic activity associated with the gradual breakup of Pangaea caused climate instability. Periods of intense heat alternated with wetter intervals. Plants rose and fell in abundance. Animals that depended on narrow conditions struggled to survive. When another extinction event struck near the end of the Triassic, the balance of power shifted. Many dominant archosaurs disappeared, including large predators that had previously kept dinosaurs in check. Once again, environmental disruption rewrote the rules of survival. Dinosaurs endured this crisis. Their small size, fast growth, and flexible behavior gave them resilience. When the Jurassic period began, dinosaurs were no longer rare. They were ready to expand into newly available niches across the globe. The first true dinosaurs were not impressive by later standards. They did not tower over forests or shake the ground with their steps. Yet they carried within their bones the structural innovations that would later allow some of their descendants to become the largest land animals ever to exist. Their story highlights a fundamental principle of evolution. Success is not always immediate. Sometimes it begins quietly, in the background, among creatures that seem insignificant at the time. Dinosaurs were once just another experiment in a crowded evolutionary landscape. What set them apart was not dominance, but design. As the Jurassic dawned, dinosaurs were poised for transformation. Freed from competition and armed with efficient bodies, they would soon diversify into forms unlike anything the world had seen before. The age of giants was approaching, built upon the small, swift steps of the first true dinosaurs. As dinosaurs began to establish themselves after the end Triassic extinction, one lineage in particular would shape the image of dinosaurs for generations to come. These were the early carnivorous dinosaurs, the first true theropods. They were not yet the towering predators of later periods, but they introduced a hunting body plan that would dominate terrestrial ecosystems for more than 150 million years. Early theropods evolved from small bipedal ancestors and refined the traits that made predation efficient. Their bodies were lightweight and balanced. Hollow bones reduced weight without sacrificing strength. Long hind limbs provided speed and acceleration. Stiffened tails acted as dynamic counterbalances, allowing sharp turns during pursuit. Together, these features created agile hunters capable of exploiting a wide range of prey. The skulls of early theropods reveal another major evolutionary shift. Their jaws were lined with recurved, serrated teeth, designed not for crushing, but for slicing. This allowed them to inflict deep wounds quickly, causing prey to bleed and weaken. Rather than overpowering victims with sheer force, early theropods relied on precision and repeated strikes. Vision played a critical role in this hunting strategy. Theropods developed forward-facing eyes, giving them binocular vision and improved depth perception. This adaptation enhanced their ability to judge distance and timing, essential for fast-moving predators. Combined with increased brain regions associated with sensory processing, these dinosaurs became more effective hunters than most reptiles before them. Early carnivorous dinosaurs were not solitary monsters roaming empty landscapes. Fossil evidence suggests they lived in complex ecosystems with many competitors. Crocodile-line archosaurs still occupied river systems and floodplains. Large amphibians hunted near water. Surviving synapsids filled smaller predator niches. Theropods had to compete and coexist, refining their behavior to survive. One advantage theropods possessed was flexibility in prey choice. Smaller species hunted insects, lizards, and early mammals. Larger forms targeted herbivorous dinosaurs and other reptiles. This ability to scale prey selection with body size allowed theropods to diversify rapidly as ecosystems expanded. Growth patterns further supported their success. Bone histology shows that many theropods experienced rapid growth during juvenile stages. They reached functional hunting size quickly, reducing vulnerability. This growth strategy also supported evolutionary experimentation. Lineages could increase or decrease size over relatively short evolutionary timescales, responding quickly to environmental change. Behavior likely played an equally important role. While direct evidence is limited, trackways and bone beds suggest that some theropods may have hunted in groups or at least tolerated close proximity. Cooperative or semi-cooperative behavior would have increased hunting success and allowed these predators to tackle larger prey than individuals could manage alone. As the Jurassic period progressed, theropods began to increase in size. Ecological opportunities expanded as herbivorous dinosaurs grew larger and more abundant. Selection favored predators capable of taking down bigger prey. Jaws became stronger, neck muscles thickened, claws grew more robust. Yet, even as size increased, theropods retained their fundamental body plan of speed, balance, and sensory awareness. The evolution of theropods also shows a trend toward increased intelligence. Brain size relative to body mass increased in several lineages. Areas associated with coordination and vision became more developed. This cognitive edge may have supported more complex hunting strategies, territorial behavior, and social interactions. Claws were another defining feature. The hands of early theropods were equipped with sharp, curved claws used for grasping prey. These were not weight-bearing structures, but tools for manipulation. Gripping, slashing, and holding prey allowed theropods to control victims during attacks. This manual dexterity set them apart from many other reptilian predators. Teeth replacement was constant. Theropods regularly shed and regrew teeth, ensuring they always had sharp cutting edges. This reduced the cost of tooth damage and allowed aggressive feeding strategies without long-term penalty. Broken teeth were simply replaced. As theropods spread across Pangaea, they encountered diverse environments. Forests, floodplains, deserts, and coastal regions all hosted different prey communities. Local adaptation drove diversification. Some theropods became slender and fast, adapted for chasing small prey. Others became bulkier, built for ambush and power. This adaptive radiation laid the groundwork for the later emergence of iconic predators. It is important to note that early theropods were not invincible. Many lineages failed. Fossils reveal extinct branches that experimented with different skull shapes, limb proportions, and sizes. Evolution tested many designs, discarding those that were less efficient or too specialized for unstable environments. Environmental change remained a constant pressure. Volcanic eruptions, climate shifts, and changing sea levels repeatedly altered habitats. Theropods that survived were those that could adapt behaviorally as well as anatomically. Flexible hunting strategies and broad prey tolerance increased resilience. One of the most significant long-term outcomes of theropod evolution was the origin of feathers. While often associated with later dinosaurs and birds, filamentous feathers likely first appeared in small theropods as insulation or display structures. These early feathers improved temperature regulation and may have played roles in communication or camouflage. This development would eventually transform theropods into something entirely new. But even at this early stage, it highlights how predatory success was tied not just to killing ability, but to overall physiological efficiency. By the mid-Jurassic, theropods had secured their place as dominant terrestrial predators. They were no longer marginal hunters avoiding competition. They were shaping ecosystems, influencing the evolution of prey species, and driving arms races that would define dinosaur evolution for tens of millions of years. The rise of carnivorous dinosaurs demonstrates how evolution builds upon existing frameworks. Theropods did not reinvent predation, they refined it. Speed, vision, balance, and adaptability combined into a predator model that proved extraordinarily resilient. This model would persist through countless forms, from small feathered hunters to massive apex predators. But its origins lay in these early theropods, creatures that turned efficiency into dominance and transformed the role of predators on land forever. As the Jurassic continued, new evolutionary pressures would push dinosaurs into even more extreme forms. Herbivores would grow larger and more specialized. Predators would respond in kind. The evolutionary dialogue between hunter and hunted was only just beginning, and it would drive the next great transformations in dinosaur history. As carnivorous dinosaurs refined the art of hunting, another evolutionary revolution was unfolding in parallel. Herbivorous dinosaurs were beginning to rise, transforming landscapes and reshaping ecosystems from the ground up. Their evolution was not simply a response to predators, but a complex adaptation to plants, climate, and the physical limits of living on land. The success of dinosaurs as a whole cannot be understood without understanding how plant-eating dinosaurs evolved and diversified. Early in dinosaur history, most species were small and primarily carnivorous or omnivorous. Plant eating required a very different set of tools. Plants do not flee, but they are difficult to digest. They are low in energy compared to meat and often protected by tough fibers, toxins, or silica. For herbivory to succeed on a large scale, dinosaurs needed new anatomical solutions. One of the first changes involved teeth. Early herbivorous dinosaurs evolved flatter, leaf-shaped teeth suited for slicing vegetation rather than tearing flesh. Serrated edges helped cut through tough plant material. In some lineages, teeth became tightly packed into rows, forming efficient shearing surfaces. Others developed teeth that could grind plants into pulp, increasing digestive efficiency. Jaws also changed. Herbivorous dinosaurs evolved stronger jaw muscles and altered jaw joints that allowed different chewing motions. Some could move their jaws forward and backward. Others developed side-to-side motion. These movements increased the breakdown of plant material before swallowing, reducing the burden on the digestive system. Digestion itself was another major challenge. Unlike mammals, dinosaurs did not chew extensively. Instead, many relied on fermentation. Large digestive chambers housed bacteria capable of breaking down cellulose. The larger the gut, the more plant material could be processed. This created evolutionary pressure toward increased body size. As herbivorous dinosaurs grew larger, a powerful feedback loop emerged. Large size allowed them to house bigger digestive systems. Bigger digestive systems allowed them to process more plants. More energy supported further growth. This cycle drove the evolution of some of the largest land animals ever to exist. But large size came with costs. Moving massive bodies required strong limbs and reinforced skeletons. Herbivorous dinosaurs responded with column-like legs positioned directly beneath the body. Bones thickened. Joints became more stable. These changes allowed weight to be distributed efficiently, reducing stress during movement. Feeding strategies diversified rapidly. Some herbivores fed close to the ground, cropping low vegetation. Others browsed on shrubs and tree leaves. Neck length became a key variable. Longer necks allowed access to food without moving the entire body, conserving energy. This adaptation would later reach extreme forms, but its roots appeared early. The rise of herbivorous dinosaurs also influenced plant evolution. During the Jurassic and early Cretaceous, gymnosperms such as conifers and cycads dominated landscapes. Dinosaurs fed heavily on these plants, shaping forest structure, browsing pressure-favored plants that could grow quickly, regenerate, or develop chemical defenses. Some herbivorous dinosaurs evolved beaks. These keratin-covered structures allowed precise cropping of vegetation. Beaks reduced reliance on teeth for initial feeding and allowed specialization on particular plant types. Behind the beak, batteries of teeth processed food further. Defense became an increasingly important concern. Herbivores could not rely on speed alone, especially as body size increased. Evolution responded with armor, spikes, plates, and tail weapons. Bony osteoderms embedded in the skin provided protection against bites. Spikes discouraged attacks. Tail clubs delivered powerful blows capable of injuring predators. These defenses were not passive, they shaped predator behavior. Carnivorous dinosaurs had to evolve strategies to avoid injury. This evolutionary arms race drove further diversification on both sides. Predator teeth became stronger. Herbivore armor became thicker. Evolution escalated. Social behavior likely played a role as well. Fossil evidence suggests that many herbivorous dinosaurs lived in groups. Herding provided protection through numbers. Predators were less likely to attack large groups. Young individuals benefited from collective defense. Group living also aided migration across seasonal landscapes. Reproduction strategies supported this lifestyle. Herbivorous dinosaurs laid large numbers of eggs, increasing the odds that some offspring would survive. Nesting grounds show evidence of repeated use across generations. Parental care, while variable, likely improved survival rates in some species. As herbivores became more abundant, they transformed ecosystems. Vast herds trampled vegetation, spread seeds, and altered soil structure. Landscapes became dynamic systems shaped by grazing and browsing. Rivers changed course. Forests opened into plains. Herbivorous dinosaurs became ecosystem engineers on a planetary scale. Their abundance also supported larger predator populations. Carnivorous dinosaurs could grow bigger because food sources were plentiful. Thus, the rise of herbivores indirectly fueled the rise of apex predators. The entire dinosaur-dominated world rested on this foundation of plant eaters. Climate continued to influence this process. Warm global temperatures and high carbon dioxide levels promoted plant growth. Without polar ice caps, sea levels were high, creating extensive coastal plains rich in vegetation. These environments were ideal for large herbivores. Yet, herbivorous dinosaurs were not invulnerable. Environmental disruptions periodically reduced plant productivity. Droughts, volcanic winters, and sea level changes created food shortages. Species that were too specialized or too large sometimes failed to adapt. Extinction culled lineages that could not respond. This constant pressure drove innovation. Some herbivores became smaller and more agile. Others specialized in specific plants. Still others evolved extreme gigantism to outgrow predators entirely. Diversity increased as no single strategy guaranteed survival. One of the most important outcomes of herbivorous dinosaur evolution was stability. By efficiently converting plant matter into animal biomass, they stabilized food webs. Ecosystems could support complex interactions and large populations. This stability allowed dinosaur-dominated systems to persist for millions of years. The rise of herbivorous dinosaurs also reshaped evolutionary possibilities for other animals. Early mammals were pushed into nocturnal and small body niches. Insects diversified alongside plants. Birds would later exploit new feeding opportunities created by plant diversity. Herbivorous dinosaurs were not passive consumers. They were active drivers of evolutionary change. Their feeding habits influenced plant chemistry. Their movement shaped landscapes. Their presence defined the structure of prehistoric ecosystems. When we imagine the age of dinosaurs, towering predators often dominate the image, but without herbivores, there would have been no age of dinosaurs at all. Plant-eating dinosaurs formed the backbone of this world, sustaining food webs and enabling the rise of everything else. Their evolution reveals another core principle of life on Earth. Dominance is not built solely on aggression, it is built on energy flow. Those who control the conversion of sunlight into biomass control the ecosystem. Herbivorous dinosaurs mastered this role on a scale never seen before. As the Jurassic progressed, herbivorous dinosaurs would continue to diversify into even more extreme forms. Longer necks, heavier armor, larger herds, and more specialized feeding strategies awaited. The evolutionary momentum was accelerating, and the dinosaur world was becoming more complex, more interconnected, and more resilient than ever before. The transition into the Jurassic period marked a dramatic turning point in dinosaur evolution. This was not simply a continuation of Triassic trends, but an explosion of diversity driven by climate stability, rising sea levels, and the gradual breakup of Pangea. Dinosaurs moved from opportunistic survivors into dominant architects of terrestrial ecosystems. The Jurassic world provided the conditions they needed to expand in size, variety, and influence. One of the most important changes was climate. The Jurassic was generally warmer and more stable than the Triassic. Extreme temperature swings became less frequent. Rainfall increased in many regions, supporting widespread forests and rich plant growth. This stability reduced extinction pressure and allowed evolutionary experimentation to flourish. When environments remain stable for long periods, life diversifies rather than merely survives. Pangea, once a single massive landmass, began to fracture. Rifts opened between what would become Africa, North America, Europe, and South America. These separations created new coastlines, shallow seas, and isolated land regions. Geographic isolation is a powerful driver of evolution. Populations separated by oceans or climate barriers begin to diverge, adapting to local conditions. This process accelerated dinosaur diversification across the globe. As continents slowly drifted apart, sea levels rose, shallow inland seas flooded low-lying areas, creating humid coastal plains and lush river systems. These environments were ideal for plant growth. Ferns, conifers, and cycads spread widely, forming dense forests that supported massive herbivore populations. Where plants thrived, dinosaurs followed. Oxygen levels also continued to rise during the Jurassic. Higher oxygen supported higher metabolic activity and larger body sizes. Animals could sustain more active lifestyles and grow to greater mass without suffocating their tissues. This atmospheric shift helped remove earlier constraints on size and endurance. Within this favorable setting, dinosaurs rapidly diversified into distinct ecological roles. herbivores expanded into multiple forms, from small bipedal plant eaters to colossal quadrupeds. Carnivores diversified alongside them, evolving different hunting strategies depending on prey availability and terrain. One of the most visible changes was size. Jurassic dinosaurs grew larger than their Triassic ancestors. Herbivores developed longer necks and heavier bodies. Predators increased in mass and power. This trend toward gigantism was not random. Larger animals could reach higher vegetation, deter predators, and store more energy. In stable, resource-rich environments, large size became an advantage. The evolution of giant sauropods during the Jurassic represents one of the most extreme outcomes of this trend. But even before reaching their later sizes, early long-necked herbivores began to dominate landscapes. Their feeding strategies allowed them to exploit vast areas without moving constantly, reducing energy expenditure. Predators responded to this shift. Carnivorous dinosaurs evolved stronger jaws, thicker neck muscles, and improved bite mechanics. Rather than chasing small prey, many Jurassic predators focused on ambush or coordinated attacks on large herbivores. Hunting became a high-risk, high-reward strategy. Ecosystems became more structured. Distinct layers of feeding emerged. Small herbivores fed on low vegetation. Medium-sized herbivores browsed shrubs. Large sauropods fed on treetops. Predators specialized in targeting specific size classes. This vertical and horizontal partitioning reduced competition and increased overall biodiversity. Another critical factor was reproduction. Dinosaurs laid eggs, often in large numbers. Stable climates allowed nesting sites to be reused across generations. Some species liked to return to the same regions year after year to breed. This predictability improved offspring survival and population growth. Juvenile dinosaurs occupied different ecological niches than adults. Young individuals fed on different plants or prey, reducing competition with their parents. This age-based niche separation allowed populations to support large numbers without exhausting resources. The Jurassic also saw increased specialization in locomotion. Some dinosaurs evolved longer limbs for endurance, walking across floodplains. Others developed shorter, stronger limbs for stability under massive weight. Trackway evidence reveals complex movement patterns, including group travel and migration. Forests played a key role in shaping Jurassic dinosaurs. Dense vegetation favored animals that could navigate cluttered environments. Long necks allowed feeding without moving large bodies through thick forests. Upright posture helped maintain visibility. Predators used cover to ambush prey. The structure of forests directly influenced dinosaur anatomy and behavior. Water systems were equally important. Rivers, lakes, and swamps provided food, nesting grounds, and migration routes. Some dinosaurs adapted to semi-aquatic lifestyles, feeding near water sources. Seasonal flooding enriched soils, supporting plant regrowth and sustaining herbivore populations. Despite this abundance, the Jurassic was not free of danger. Volcanic activity continued in some regions. Sea level changes periodically flooded habitats. Droughts still occurred. But compared to the Triassic, these disturbances were less catastrophic. Ecosystems had time to recover, and dinosaurs had the resilience to adapt. Competition among dinosaurs increased as diversity grew. Natural selection favored efficiency. Those species that could not compete for food, avoid predators, or reproduce successfully declined. Extinction continued, but at a slower, more selective pace. This period also saw important evolutionary experimentation beyond body size. sensory systems improved, vision became sharper, hearing more refined. Brain structures associated with coordination and balance developed further. These changes supported more complex behavior, from hunting strategies to social interaction. Communication likely became more important as populations increased. Visual displays, vocalizations, and body postures may have been used to attract mates, establish dominance, or warn rivals. Features such as crests, color patterns, and elongated structures may have evolved partly for these purposes. The Jurassic was also a time of global connectivity. Before continents fully separated, land bridges still allowed dinosaurs to spread across vast distances. Similar dinosaur groups appear in fossils from multiple continents, indicating widespread dispersal. This global distribution allowed successful designs to spread rapidly. At the same time, isolation was increasing. As oceans widened, populations became separated, local adaptations intensified. This balance between connectivity and isolation fueled diversity while maintaining core dinosaur traits. By the Middle to Late Jurassic, dinosaurs were no longer just dominant, they were entrenched. Ecosystems revolved around them. Plants evolved under browsing pressure. Predators evolved in response to herbivores. Smaller animals adapted to avoid or exploit dinosaur activity. The Jurassic explosion demonstrates how environmental opportunity and biological readiness can combine to produce extraordinary evolutionary outcomes. Dinosaurs had already developed efficient bodies during the Triassic. When conditions improved, they expanded rapidly into every available niche. This period set the template for the rest of dinosaur history. The major groups were established. Body plans stabilized. Future evolution would refine and exaggerate these designs rather than invent entirely new ones. As the Jurassic drew toward its end, the world was filled with dinosaurs of every shape and size. Towering herbivores moved in, herds across fertile plains. Agile predators stalked them through forests and river valleys. The planet had entered a new equilibrium, one defined by dinosaur dominance. Yet this dominance was not permanent. Change would come again. Climates would shift. Plants would evolve. New challenges would arise. The next phase of dinosaur evolution would push specialization even further, driving diversity to its peak. The Jurassic was the moment dinosaurs truly became the rulers of land, not through sudden conquest, but through long-term adaptation to a world that finally allowed them to thrive. Among all dinosaur lineages, none pushed the limits of biology as dramatically as the sauropods. These were the giants of the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, animals whose sheer size still challenges our understanding of how life functions on land. The evolution of sauropods was not a simple trend toward being bigger. It was a complex response to food availability, physiology, biomechanics, and ecological opportunity. Their rise represents one of the most extreme evolutionary experiments ever to succeed. The ancestors of sauropods were not giants. They began as relatively small, bipedal or semi-quadrupedal herbivores during the late Triassic and early Jurassic. These early forms already showed hints of what was to come. Their necks were slightly elongated. Their bodies were deep and barrel-shaped, suited for housing large digestive systems. Their growth rates were faster than those of many other reptiles. Evolution was quietly laying the groundwork for gigantism. One of the most important drivers of sauropod evolution was food. Jurassic landscapes were rich in plant life, dominated by ferns, conifers, and cycads. These plants were abundant but low in nutritional value. To extract enough energy, herbivores needed to consume vast quantities. Increasing body size allowed sauropods to do exactly that. A larger body could process more food over longer periods, making low-quality vegetation viable. Neck length was central to this strategy. Elongating the neck allowed sauropods to reach high vegetation without moving their massive bodies. This reduced energy expenditure and minimized wear on joints. A long neck also expanded the feeding envelope, allowing access to plants over a wide area while standing still. Some sauropods could feed both at ground level and high in the canopy, reducing competition with other herbivores. Supporting such a neck required major anatomical innovation. Sauropod neck vertebrae were elongated but lightweight, filled with air spaces. This pneumatic structure reduced weight without sacrificing strength. Air sacs connected to the lungs extended into the bones, creating a respiratory system similar in principle to that of modern birds. This system allowed efficient oxygen exchange and helped cool the body, a critical feature for such large animals. Body size increased alongside neck length. As sauropods grew larger, their limbs evolved into massive, column-like supports. Unlike the bent limbs of many animals, sauropod legs were positioned straight beneath the body, functioning like pillars. This alignment reduced bending stress and allowed the skeleton to support enormous weight with minimal energy cost. Feet also changed. Sauropods walked on padded, elephant-like feet with thick cushioning tissue. This distributed weight over a larger surface area, reducing pressure on the ground and preventing injury. Trackways show that despite their size, sauropods moved with surprising efficiency and stability. One of the most debated aspects of sauropod biology is how they circulated blood to such heights. Pumping blood to a head held several meters above the heart posed a major challenge. Evidence suggests sauropods had large, powerful hearts and high blood pressure. Their cardiovascular systems were likely reinforced with valves and specialized vessels to prevent blood from pooling or damaging tissues. Feeding behavior also influenced sauropod evolution. Unlike mammals, sauropods did not chew extensively. Instead, they stripped leaves and swallowed them whole. Gastroliths, stones found in the digestive tract, may have helped grind food. More importantly, fermentation in massive gut chambers broke down plant material over long periods. Digestion was slow but continuous, supported by constant intake. Growth rates were another key factor. Bone microstructure indicates that sauropods grew extremely fast, especially during juvenile stages. Some may have reached several tons within a few decades. Rapid growth reduced vulnerability to predators and allowed populations to recover quickly after losses. It also meant that gigantism could evolve relatively rapidly in evolutionary terms. Predation pressure shaped sauropod life history. Juveniles were vulnerable to large theropods, but adults were nearly immune. Sheer size acted as defense. Few predators could risk attacking a fully grown sauropod. This created a size refuge where survival probability increased dramatically after reaching a certain mass. Selection strongly favored growth beyond this threshold. Social behavior likely supported this strategy. Evidence from bone beds and trackways suggests sauropods lived in groups, at least during parts of their lives. Herding protected young individuals and allowed coordinated movement across landscapes. Migration may have occurred in response to seasonal changes following plant growth patterns. The environment of the Jurassic was particularly favorable for sauropods. Warm global temperatures reduced the risk of heat loss. High carbon dioxide levels promoted plant growth. Extensive floodplains and forests provided continuous food supply. Without polar ice caps, climates were relatively uniform, allowing sauropods to spread across vast regions. Continental fragmentation also played a role. As land masses separated, isolated sauropod populations evolved distinct forms. Some developed extremely long necks, others became more robust. Body proportions varied depending on local vegetation and terrain. This geographic isolation fueled diversity within the sauropod lineage. Despite their success, sauropods faced constraints. There were limits to size. Bones had to withstand stress. Joints had to function reliably. Metabolism had to balance heat production and dissipation. Evolution pushed these limits but did not exceed them. Sauropods represent the upper boundary of terrestrial animal size, constrained by physics and physiology. Their existence reshaped ecosystems. Sauropods altered forests by breaking trees, opening clearings, and spreading seeds through their waste. Their movement compacted soil and created pathways used by other animals. They were ecosystem engineers on an unprecedented scale. Their presence also influenced predator evolution. Theropods grew larger and more specialized to exploit juvenile sauropods. Hunting strategies adapted to target the young, sick, or isolated. This predator-prey dynamic drove further evolutionary change on both sides. Sauropods also affected atmospheric processes indirectly. By consuming and processing vast amounts of plant matter, they influenced carbon cycling. Their digestion released methane, a potent greenhouse gas, potentially contributing to the warm climates of the Jurassic and Cretaceous. In this way, sauropods may have played a role in regulating their own environment. The dominance of sauropods lasted tens of millions of years. Few other animal groups have maintained ecological prominence for so long. Their success was not due to a single adaptation, but to the integration of many systems working together. Skeletal design, respiratory efficiency, growth strategy, and environmental opportunity all aligned. Eventually, changing climates and plant communities would alter this balance. Some sauropod lineages declined, while others persisted into the late Cretaceous, but their legacy remained. They demonstrated that life on land could reach sizes once thought impossible. The evolution of sauropods challenges our assumptions about what animals can be. It shows that with the right conditions and innovations, biology can push boundaries dramatically. These giants were not evolutionary accidents. They were the predictable outcome of abundant resources, efficient design, and sustained stability. When we look at sauropods, we are not just seeing big dinosaurs. We are seeing the extreme expression of dinosaur success, a reminder that evolution does not aim for moderation. It explores every possibility allowed by physics and environment. As dinosaur ecosystems grew increasingly complex, other lineages would respond in different ways. Some would specialize in speed rather than size, others in armor rather than mass. The next stage of dinosaur evolution would focus not on becoming bigger, but on becoming more refined, leading to new forms of dominance and defense across the prehistoric world. As sauropods pushed the limits of size and herbivory, another branch of dinosaurs followed a very different evolutionary path. Theropods, the carnivorous dinosaurs, continued to diversify not only in size, but in intelligence, agility, and behavioral complexity. From small, fast hunters to massive apex predators, theropods became the most influential predators the land had ever seen. Their evolution was driven by constant interaction with prey, competition with rivals, and the need to adapt to increasingly complex ecosystems. Early theropods had already established the basic predator blueprint. During the late Triassic and early Jurassic, bipedal posture, grasping hands, sharp teeth, and forward-facing eyes formed the foundation. But as herbivorous dinosaurs became larger, more numerous, and more specialized, theropods were forced to evolve in response. Predation became more challenging, and success depended on more than speed alone. One of the most important trends in theropod evolution was size diversification. Some lineages grew larger, becoming apex predators capable of hunting the biggest herbivores. Others remained small, exploiting niches unavailable to giants. This split allowed theropods to dominate predation at every scale, from hunting insects and small vertebrates to attacking multi-ton dinosaurs. Large theropods evolved massive skulls with powerful jaw muscles. Their bites were designed to crush bone, tear flesh, or inflict catastrophic wounds. Skull openings reduced weight while maintaining strength. Neck muscles thickened to support violent head movements during attacks. These predators relied on ambush and short bursts of power rather than long chases. Smaller theropods followed a different strategy. Speed, agility, and precision defined their success. Long legs and lightweight bodies allowed them to chase agile prey or dart through dense vegetation. Their hands became more dexterous, capable of grasping and manipulating prey. Some developed enlarged claws on their feet, likely used to pin victims during attacks. Intelligence became increasingly important. Brain size, relative to body mass, increased in many theropod lineages. Regions associated with vision, balance, and coordination expanded. This suggests improved sensory processing and motor control. Smarter predators could plan attacks, remember territories, and respond flexibly to changing conditions. Vision was particularly refined. Theropods had excellent binocular vision, allowing precise depth perception. This was crucial for judging distance during attacks. Some species may have also had enhanced night vision, allowing them to hunt at dawn, dusk, or night when prey was less alert. This temporal niche partitioning reduced competition and increased hunting success. Hearing and smell also improved. Inner ear structures suggest sensitivity to low-frequency sounds, useful for detecting large prey or communicating over distance. Olfactory bulbs indicate that smell played a role in tracking prey, locating carcasses, or recognizing rivals. Theropods were not simple brute force predators. They were multisensory hunters. As ecosystems grew more crowded, competition among predators intensified. Theropods evolved ways to reduce direct conflict. Size differences allowed niche separation. Behavioral adaptations, such as territoriality or avoidance, minimized dangerous encounters. Even among large predators, specialization reduced overlap. Some targeted sauropods. Others focused on medium-sized herbivores. Pack behavior is one of the most debated aspects of theropod evolution. Trackways and bone beds suggest that some species may have lived or hunted in groups, at least temporarily. Cooperative hunting would have allowed smaller theropods to tackle larger prey. Even loose coordination could improve success rates and reduce individual risk. Feathers played an increasingly important role in theropod evolution. Initially, feathers likely evolved for insulation, helping maintain stable body temperatures. As metabolic rates increased, insulation became valuable, especially for small, active predators. Feathers also aided in display, allowing individuals to signal health, dominance, or reproductive readiness. Over time, feathers diversified in form and function. Some became elongated or colorful, used in courtship displays. Others helped with balance and maneuverability during running or jumping. Forelimb feathers may have assisted in prey capture by increasing surface area or improving grip. This gradual refinement of feathers would eventually lead to flight in one branch of theropods. But long before true flight evolved, feathers were already transforming theropod biology. They supported higher activity levels, expanded behavioral repertoires, and increased evolutionary flexibility. Theropod arms also evolved significantly. While some large predators reduced arm size, relying more on jaws, others developed longer, more functional forelimbs. Claws became sharper and more curved. Muscles allowed precise control. These arms were used not just for killing, but for holding prey, interacting with mates, and possibly caring for offspring. Reproduction and parenting behavior likely varied widely among theropods. Nesting sites show evidence that some species guarded their eggs. Others may have provided care after hatching. Protecting offspring improved survival rates and supported complex social structures. Parental investment is often associated with higher intelligence and social behavior. Growth strategies continued to favor rapid development. Theropods grew quickly during juvenile stages, reaching hunting capability early. This reduced the vulnerable period of life. Juveniles often occupied different ecological niches than adults, hunting smaller prey and avoiding direct competition with mature individuals. This age-based niche separation allowed multiple life stages to coexist within the same species. It also increased overall population resilience. Even if adults were lost to injury or disease, juveniles could quickly replace them. Environmental pressures never disappeared. Climate fluctuations, volcanic eruptions, and changing plant communities continued to reshape ecosystems. Theropods that survived were those that could adjust behaviorally. Flexible hunting strategies, broad prey tolerance, and adaptability were essential. The Cretaceous period would later amplify many of these trends, but the foundation was built earlier. By the late Jurassic, theropods had already diversified into a wide array of forms. They were no longer just predators, they were drivers of evolution, shaping the development of prey species and influencing ecosystem structure. Predator-prey dynamics created evolutionary feedback loops. As theropods became more effective hunters, herbivores evolved better defenses. Thicker armor, larger size, herding behavior, and speed all increased. Theropods responded with stronger bites, better coordination, and refined strategies. This arms race fueled rapid evolutionary change on both sides. Theropods also interacted with other predators. Competition with crocodile-line reptiles, large mammals, and even other theropods forced specialization. Dominance was never absolute. Even apex predators had to avoid injury, as a single broken bone could be fatal. Natural selection favored caution as much as aggression. One of the most remarkable outcomes of theropod evolution was longevity. The basic theropod body plan remained successful for over 150 million years. Few predator designs in Earth's history have shown such persistence. This longevity reflects not stagnation, but adaptability. Theropods could change size, behavior, and ecology without abandoning their core structure. Their legacy extends beyond extinction. Birds, the only surviving dinosaurs, are living theropods. Many traits seen in modern birds, such as feathers, hollow bones, efficient lungs, and high intelligence originated in non-avian theropods. The predator lineage did not end. It transformed. Understanding theropod evolution reveals how complex predation can become under sustained evolutionary pressure. Success required more than power. It demanded efficiency, intelligence, cooperation, and innovation. Theropods embodied all of these traits to varying degrees. As dinosaur ecosystems reached peak complexity, new challenges emerged. Defensive dinosaurs evolved armor and weapons. Plants changed in response to browsing. Climates shifted again. The next phase of evolution would see dinosaurs experimenting with protection rather than pursuit. This shift would give rise to some of the most visually distinctive dinosaurs of all time, covered in plates, spikes, and bony shields. The age of armor was approaching, and with it, a new chapter in the evolutionary story of dinosaurs. As predatory dinosaurs refined speed, intelligence, and killing efficiency, many herbivorous dinosaurs followed a different evolutionary strategy. Instead of outrunning or outgrowing their enemies, they evolved armor. This shift marked a new phase in the evolutionary arms race, one where survival depended on protection, deterrence, and passive defense rather than escape. Armored dinosaurs became some of the most specialized and visually distinctive animals ever to walk the Earth. The rise of armor was driven by necessity. As theropods grew larger and more effective hunters, smaller and medium-sized herbivores faced increasing risk. Not all species could grow to massive size like sauropods. Not all could rely on speed. For many, the solution was to make themselves difficult or dangerous to attack. The earliest forms of armor appeared as osteoderms, bony plates embedded in the skin. These structures likely evolved from scales that gradually mineralized. Initially, they may have provided modest protection or helped regulate body temperature. Over time, natural selection favored thicker, more extensive armor that could withstand bites and slashes from predators.
Among the first dinosaurs to fully embrace this strategy were stegosaurs. These animals developed rows of large bony plates along their backs and spikes on their tails.
While the plates were once thought to function as armor, evidence suggests they were relatively thin and rich in blood vessels. This indicates a possible role in thermoregulation or display. However, the tail spikes were unmistakably defensive. Positioned at the end of a muscular tail, they could deliver powerful blows capable of injuring or killing predators. Ankylosaurs took armor to an even greater extreme. Their bodies were covered in thick bony plates fused into a rigid shield. This armor extended from head to tail, leaving few vulnerable areas. Some ankylosaurs also evolved massive tail clubs formed from fused vertebrae and reinforced bone. A single strike from such a club could shatter bones, making ankylosaurs among the most heavily defended land animals ever. Armor did not come without cost. Additional bone increased body weight, reducing speed and agility. Armored dinosaurs compensated with low, wide stances and powerful limbs. Their bodies were built close to the ground, making it difficult for predators to flip them over. A predator attacking from above faced a shield of bone and spikes rather than soft tissue. Head protection also evolved. Many armored dinosaurs developed thick skulls, bony eyelids, and reinforced neck vertebrae. The neck, a common target for predators, became increasingly protected. Some species could lower their heads and present a nearly impenetrable front, forcing predators to retreat. Feeding strategies adapted alongside defense. Armored dinosaurs were primarily herbivores, feeding on low-growing vegetation. Their beaks and teeth were designed for cropping plants close to the ground. This feeding niche reduced competition with taller herbivores and allowed them to exploit resources that others ignored. Their digestive systems were well adapted to processing tough plant material. Fermentation chambers housed microbes capable of breaking down cellulose. Although they moved slowly, armored dinosaurs could feed continuously, maintaining energy balance despite their heavy armor. The presence of armor changed predator behavior. Attacking an armored dinosaur carried significant risk. Broken teeth, damaged jaws, or fractured limbs could be fatal for predators. As a result, many theropods likely avoided fully grown armored prey, focusing instead on juveniles, injured individuals, or other species. This selective pressure influenced predator hunting strategies and prey selection. The evolutionary arms race intensified. As armor became thicker and weapons like tail clubs more powerful, predators responded with stronger jaws, thicker skulls, and improved bite mechanics. This escalation drove continuous adaptation on both sides, with no permanent advantage for either. Display and communication may have also influenced armor evolution. Plates, spikes, and horns varied widely in shape and size, even among closely related species. Such variation suggests a role in species recognition or sexual display. Individuals with more impressive structures may have been more attractive to mates or more intimidating to rivals. Fossil evidence shows that armor was not uniform across individuals. Some had larger plates or spikes than others. This variation indicates that armor was influenced by both natural and sexual selection. Protection and display often evolved together, blurring the line between survival and reproduction. Social behavior may have further enhanced the effectiveness of armor. Herding provided additional protection, especially for juveniles. A group of armored dinosaurs presented a wall of spikes and plates, discouraging predators from attacking. Group living also allowed shared vigilance, increasing early detection of threats. Juvenile armored dinosaurs were more vulnerable than adults. Their armor developed gradually as they grew. This made early life stages risky. Rapid growth was therefore advantageous, allowing individuals to reach protective size more quickly. Bone histology suggests that many armored dinosaurs grew relatively fast during youth, prioritizing defense development. Environment played a role in shaping armored dinosaur diversity. Open floodplains and forest edges favored low-browsing herbivores with defensive adaptations. Dense forests provided cover, reducing the need for speed. These environments allowed armored dinosaurs to thrive despite their limited mobility. Climate stability during much of the Jurassic and early Cretaceous supported the persistence of heavily specialized forms. As long as vegetation remained abundant and predators predictable, armor remained an effective strategy. However, specialization came with risk. Changes in environment or plant communities could render heavy armor disadvantageous. Some armored dinosaurs experimented with additional defensive features. Horns, frills, and thickened skulls appeared in later lineages. These structures provided protection during predator encounters and may have played roles in intra-specific combat. Head-to-head clashes between individuals could establish dominance or access to mates. These head-based defenses required reinforced necks and shoulders, muscles thickened, vertebrae strengthened. The entire upper body became adapted to withstand impact. This level of specialization demonstrates how deeply defense shaped dinosaur anatomy. Armor also influenced movement. Armored dinosaurs were not built for long-distance migration. Their heavy bodies favored stable environments with reliable food sources. This may explain their patchy fossil distribution, often concentrated in specific regions where conditions were favorable. Despite their defensive capabilities, armored dinosaurs were not immune to extinction. Environmental disruptions such as climate shifts, volcanic activity, or plant turnover could reduce food availability. Heavily armored bodies required constant energy intake. When resources declined, these species struggled. Yet for tens of millions of years, armor worked. Stegosaurs and ankylosaurs persisted alongside increasingly powerful predators. Their continued existence demonstrates that defense can be as successful an evolutionary strategy as offense. The evolution of armor also highlights the diversity of dinosaur survival strategies. There was no single path to success. Some dinosaurs grew larger, others became faster, some became smarter. Armored dinosaurs chose resilience through protection. This diversity contributed to the overall stability of dinosaur-dominated ecosystems. Predators could not easily wipe out herbivores protected by armor. Prey populations remained robust. Food webs became more complex and balanced. Armor also influenced how dinosaurs interacted with their environment. Spikes and plates may have deterred not only predators, but also competitors. Physical structures could define personal space, reduce conflict, or establish hierarchy within groups. As the Cretaceous period progressed, armored dinosaurs would continue to evolve, reaching peak diversity. New forms with elaborate horns, frills, and armor would appear. These innovations reflected continued pressure from predators and competition within herbivore communities. The legacy of armored dinosaurs is one of persistence. They did not dominate through aggression or speed, but through endurance. Their bodies were living fortresses, designed to survive in a dangerous world. Their story reminds us that evolution is not about finding a single best solution. It is about exploring multiple strategies simultaneously. Armor was one such strategy, and it proved remarkably effective for millions of years. As dinosaurs continued to diversify, new ecological dynamics emerged. Flowering plants would soon transform landscapes. Herbivores would adapt again. Predators would respond. The evolutionary race would enter a new phase, driven not just by teeth and armor, but by changes in the very foundation of terrestrial ecosystems. The Age of Armor set the stage for this next transformation, demonstrating that survival in the dinosaur world was as much about defense as it was about dominance. One of the most transformative developments in dinosaur evolution did not involve size, teeth, or armor, but something far more subtle: feathers. Long before birds took to the skies, feathers were already reshaping dinosaur biology, behavior, and survival strategies. The origin of feathers marks a profound shift in how dinosaurs interacted with their environment, regulated their bodies, and communicated with one another. Feathers did not appear suddenly as tools for flight. Their earliest forms were simple: hair-like filaments that covered the bodies of small theropod dinosaurs. These primitive feathers were not aerodynamic. They could not lift an animal into the air. Instead, they served functions critical to survival in a changing world. One of the earliest and most important roles of feathers was insulation. As some theropods evolved higher metabolic rates and more active lifestyles, maintaining a stable internal body temperature became essential. Small, fast-moving predators lost heat quickly, especially during cooler nights or seasonal temperature drops. Filamentous feathers trapped air close to the skin, reducing heat loss and allowing these dinosaurs to remain active for longer periods. This insulation advantage allowed feathered theropods to expand into new ecological niches. They could hunt at dawn, dusk, or night, times when uninsulated reptiles were sluggish. This temporal flexibility reduced competition and increased access to prey. In a world dominated by dinosaurs, being active when others were not was a powerful advantage. Feathers also played a role in protecting the skin. They shielded the body from sunlight, abrasion, and minor injuries. In dense forests and undergrowth, feathers reduced friction and prevented damage as animals moved through vegetation. This seemingly minor benefit improved overall fitness and survival. As feathers became more widespread, their structure diversified. Some evolved branching patterns, increasing surface area. Others became stiffer or more elongated. This variation suggests that feathers were already being shaped by multiple selective pressures, not just insulation. Display emerged as another key function. Feathers could be raised, flared, or arranged to create visual signals. Color patterns, likely produced by pigments and microscopic structures, allowed individuals to communicate without sound. Display feathers could signal health, strength, or readiness to mate. Individuals with more impressive feather displays may have been more successful in reproduction, driving sexual selection. This process helps explain the rapid diversification of feather types. Once feathers became tools for communication, variation was rewarded. Different species evolved distinct feather arrangements, aiding species recognition and reducing hybridization. In crowded ecosystems, clear visual signals were essential. Feathers may also have played a role in intimidation. Spreading feathers could make a dinosaur appear larger or more threatening. Such displays may have deterred rivals or predators without physical confrontation. Avoiding injury was crucial, especially for small predators where even minor wounds could be fatal. As feather complexity increased, new functional opportunities emerged. Feathers on the arms and tail began to form surfaces that interacted with air. Initially, these surfaces likely aided balance and maneuverability rather than flight. When running, jumping, or pouncing on prey, feathered limbs provided stability and control. This aerodynamic assistance improved hunting success. Predators could leap more accurately, adjust body orientation mid-jump, and land with greater precision. Even a small improvement in capture success could provide a significant evolutionary advantage. Over time, some theropods developed larger, more structured feathers on their forelimbs. These feathers were not yet wings in the modern sense, but they could generate lift or drag. Such structures may have helped animals climb slopes, scramble up obstacles, or slow falls from heights. The environment played a major role in this progression. Forested habitats with uneven terrain favored animals that could navigate vertical spaces. Climbing, leaping, and controlled descent became valuable skills. Feathered limbs supported these behaviors, opening new ecological opportunities. Tail feathers also evolved in complexity. Stiffened tail fans helped stabilize the body during rapid turns or jumps. They acted as rudders, improving control. This was especially useful for agile predators chasing fast prey in cluttered environments. The integration of feathers with the skeletal and muscular system was gradual. Shoulder joints became more flexible. Forelimb muscles adapted to new ranges of motion. Bones lightened as air filled. Cavities expanded. Each change reinforced the others, creating a feedback loop of adaptation. Feathers also influenced reproductive behavior. Nesting strategies evolved alongside them. Feathered bodies could better protect eggs from temperature fluctuations. Parents could cover nests, providing insulation and protection. This increased egg survival and supported more active parental care. Fossil evidence suggests that some feathered dinosaurs brooded their eggs sitting on nests in bird-like postures. Feathers covered the eggs, maintaining warmth and shielding them from predators and weather. This behavior represents a significant shift from simple egg-laying toward more complex reproductive strategies. Juvenile dinosaurs likely benefited greatly from feathers. Hatchlings are especially vulnerable to temperature extremes. Insulating feathers increased survival rates during early life stages. This reduced the need for rapid growth to escape vulnerability, allowing more flexible developmental strategies. As feathered dinosaurs became more successful, feathers spread across many theropod lineages. They were no longer rare traits. They became defining features of a large portion of the dinosaur family tree. This widespread adoption suggests that feathers offered consistent advantages across environments. Not all feathers were the same. Some species retained simple filaments. Others developed complex, vanned feathers with interlocking barbs. This diversity reflects different ecological needs. Insulation, display, balance, and aerodynamic function each favored different feather designs. The presence of feathers also influenced predator-prey interactions. Feathered dinosaurs may have been quieter hunters, their feathers dampening sound during movement. Stealth improved hunting success, especially in forested environments where sound carried easily. Feathers could also assist in camouflage. Color patterns helped dinosaurs blend into surroundings, reducing detection by prey or predators. Seasonal color changes may have occurred, matching vegetation cycles and improving concealment. This multifunctionality explains why feathers became so evolutionarily successful. They were not limited to a single role. They could adapt to new functions as conditions changed. This flexibility made feathered dinosaurs particularly resilient to environmental shifts. The evolutionary pathway from feathers to flight did not require a single dramatic leap. It was a series of small, functional improvements. Gliding, controlled descent, and assisted jumping all provided incremental benefits. Each step was favored by natural selection long before true powered flight emerged. It is important to recognize that many feathered dinosaurs never flew. Feathers did not exist for the purpose of flight alone. Flight was one outcome among many, not the original goal. Most feathered dinosaurs remained ground-dwelling predators or omnivores throughout their existence. Yet the groundwork for flight was being laid. Forelimb feathers grew larger. Muscle attachments strengthened. Skeletal structures adapted. Eventually, one lineage crossed the threshold where powered flight became possible. Birds emerged from this lineage, carrying with them the legacy of feathered dinosaurs. Feathers also influenced social complexity. Visual communication became more sophisticated. Individuals could signal mood, dominance, or intent through feather positioning. This reduced the need for physical conflict and supported more complex social interactions. Increased social complexity often correlates with higher intelligence. As communication improved, selection favored cognitive abilities to interpret signals, remember individuals, and navigate social hierarchies. Feathers thus indirectly contributed to behavioral evolution. Environmental change continued to shape feathered dinosaurs. Cooler climates favored insulation. Dense forests favored maneuverability. Open plains favored display. Feathers adapted to each context, demonstrating their versatility. During the Cretaceous period, Flowering plants would further transform habitats, creating new visual environments. Feathers would evolve in response, becoming more colorful and elaborate in some lineages. Sexual selection intensified, driving rapid diversification. Feathers also affected extinction dynamics. Feathered dinosaurs may have been better equipped to survive temperature fluctuations caused by volcanic eruptions or climate change. Insulation provided a buffer against environmental stress, increasing resilience. This resilience would prove critical at the end of the dinosaur era, when catastrophic events disrupted ecosystems. Only certain lineages survived. Birds, as feathered theropods, carried forward traits that allowed them to endure harsh conditions. The origin of feathers represents a shift from purely structural adaptation to multifunctional biological innovation. Feathers were not just body coverings. They were tools for survival, communication, reproduction, and movement. Their evolution highlights a recurring theme in dinosaur history. Success came not from a single dominant trait, but from the integration of many small advantages. Feathers exemplify this principle more clearly than almost any other adaptation. When we look at modern birds, we are seeing the refined descendants of this long evolutionary experiment. Every feather carries the history of dinosaurs that once ran, hunted, displayed, and survived long before flight was ever possible. The age of feathers was not a side story in dinosaur evolution. It was a central chapter, one that reshaped how dinosaurs lived and interacted with their world. It blurred the line between reptiles and birds, revealing that the boundary between them was never sharp. As ecosystems continued to evolve, feathers would help dinosaurs adapt to new challenges. But the dinosaur world was approaching another major transformation. Flowering plants were spreading. Climates were shifting. Specialization was increasing. The next phase of dinosaur evolution would see diversity reach its peak, driven by new food sources, new behaviors, and new ecological pressures. Feathers had expanded what dinosaurs could be. Now the world itself was about to change again, pushing evolution into its most complex and competitive stage yet. The evolution of birds from dinosaurs represents one of the most extraordinary transitions in the history of life. It is not a story of sudden appearance, but of gradual transformation across millions of years. Birds did not replace dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs, the only lineage that survived when all others disappeared. Understanding how this transformation occurred requires tracing a long series of small anatomical, physiological, and behavioral changes that collectively reshaped one group of theropods into something capable of flight and long-term survival. The foundation of bird evolution lies within small to medium-sized theropod dinosaurs. These animals already possessed many traits that would later define birds. Bipedal posture, hollow bones, feathers, efficient lungs, and high activity levels were all present long before the first bird took to the air. Flight did not require inventing new systems from scratch. It required refining existing ones. One of the most critical changes occurred in the forelimbs. Early theropods used their arms primarily for grasping prey, balance, and display. Over time, forelimbs in some lineages became longer relative to the body. Bones of the hand fused and simplified, reducing weight and increasing strength. Claws became smaller or repositioned. These changes improved control and reduced drag, making the limbs more suitable for interacting with air. Shoulder anatomy also evolved significantly. The shoulder joint rotated and became more flexible, allowing the arm to move upward and outward. This range of motion is essential for flapping. In early theropods, Arms could not be lifted high above the body. Gradual changes in bone shape and muscle attachment points allowed increasingly bird-like movement. The development of a wishbone, or fused clavicles, was another crucial step. The wishbone acts like a spring during flapping, storing, and releasing energy. This structure existed in many non-avian theropods, where it may have helped stabilize the shoulders during running or grasping. Later, it became essential for powered flight. The chest also transformed. In birds, large flight muscles attached to a keel on the breastbone. Early dinosaurs lacked this structure, but gradual thickening and reshaping of the sternum provided increasing surface area for muscle attachment. Initially, these muscles supported balance and limb control. Later, they powered flapping. Feathers underwent major refinement during this transition. Simple filaments evolved into complex veined feathers with interlocking barbs. These feathers created continuous surfaces capable of generating lift. Asymmetry in feather shape became common, improving aerodynamic performance. Wings formed as feathers aligned along elongated forelimbs. Tail anatomy changed as well. Early theropods had long, bony tails used for balance. In bird ancestors, the tail shortened and vertebrae fused into a compact structure. This reduced weight and shifted the center of mass forward, improving stability during flight. Tail feathers took over many of the balance and steering functions previously handled by bone. Weight reduction was essential. Flight is energetically expensive, and excess mass makes it impossible. Bones became lighter through increased air spaces. Teeth were reduced and eventually lost, replaced by lightweight beaks. This change not only reduced weight, but also altered feeding strategies, allowing birds to exploit new food sources. Respiration was another key factor. Dinosaurs already possessed a highly efficient respiratory system with air sacs that allowed continuous airflow through the lungs. This system, inherited by birds, provides far more oxygen than mammalian lungs. During flight, high oxygen demand must be met continuously. This dinosaur-inherited system made flight physiologically feasible. Metabolism increased further in bird ancestors. High metabolic rates supported sustained activity and rapid muscle contraction. Warm-bloodedness allowed birds to operate in cooler environments and at higher altitudes. Feathers complemented this shift by providing insulation, preventing heat loss during flight. The origin of flight itself remains debated, but most evidence suggests a gradual transition involving gliding, assisted jumping, and short bursts of flapping. Small feathered theropods likely used their wings to help climb slopes, leap onto prey, or descend safely from heights. Each of these behaviors provided immediate survival benefits without requiring full flight. As wing-assisted behaviors became more effective, natural selection favored individuals with longer arms, stronger muscles, and better feather arrangements. Eventually, some lineages crossed the threshold where flapping could generate enough lift for short flights. These early flights were likely brief and low, but they opened entirely new ecological possibilities. Flight transformed predator-prey dynamics. Animals that could leave the ground could escape many terrestrial predators. They could access food sources unreachable to others. Trees, cliffs, and open air became usable habitats. This vertical expansion of ecological space drove rapid diversification. Early birds were not identical to modern birds. Many retained teeth, long tails, and clawed wings. Flight capability varied widely. Some were better gliders, others could flap more powerfully. Evolution tested many designs, discarding those that were less efficient. diet also diversified. Early birds fed on insects, small vertebrates, seeds, and plants. Beak shape evolved in response to food type. Some specialized in probing bark, others in catching flying insects. Dietary flexibility supported survival in changing environments. Reproductive strategies continued to evolve. Birds inherited egg-laying from dinosaurs, but incubation behavior became more refined. Feathers allowed effective brooding. Nests became more complex. Parental care increased, improving offspring survival. These behaviors strengthened population stability. Social behavior expanded alongside flight. Communication through calls, displays, and flocking behavior improved survival. Flying in groups reduced predation risk and improved navigation. Social learning allowed rapid spread of successful behaviors. Geographic expansion accelerated. Flying birds could cross barriers that grounded animals could not. Oceans, mountains, and deserts became less restrictive. Birds spread rapidly across continents, occupying niches that no dinosaur had reached before. This mobility also increased resilience. When environments changed locally, birds could relocate. This flexibility would later prove critical during global crises. Flight was not just a means of movement, it was a survival strategy. Competition with other animals intensified. Birds competed with small mammals, insects, and reptiles for food. Their ability to fly gave them an edge, allowing them to exploit transient resources such as seasonal insect swarms or flowering plants. The Cretaceous period saw birds diversify rapidly. Multiple lineages emerged, experimenting with size, flight style, and feeding strategy. Some birds became strong flyers. Others specialized in gliding or perching. Diversity increased as ecosystems became more complex. Yet birds remained part of the dinosaur world. They coexisted with massive sauropods, armored herbivores, and giant predators. They nested in forests shaped by dinosaurs and fed on insects influenced by dinosaur-driven plant communities. This coexistence shaped bird evolution. Birds adapted to avoid dinosaur predators. Flight patterns, nesting behavior, and camouflage evolved under constant threat. The dinosaur-dominated world was dangerous, and only adaptable lineages survived. The end Cretaceous extinction would test this adaptability. When the asteroid impact disrupted climates and collapsed food webs, most dinosaurs perished. Birds survived, not because they were immune, but because their traits provided flexibility. Small size reduced food needs. Feathers provided insulation. Flight allowed escape and migration. Varied diets allowed exploitation of remaining resources. Only a few bird lineages survived this bottleneck, but from them emerged all modern birds. Their survival does not mark the end of dinosaurs, but their continuation in a transformed form. Modern birds retain countless dinosaur traits. Their skeletons, lungs, feathers, and reproductive behaviors are all inherited. When birds run, hunt, or display, they are expressing ancient adaptations shaped in the age of dinosaurs. The dinosaur-to-bird transition reshapes how we understand extinction. It shows that extinction is not always absolute. Lineages can persist through transformation. Traits that seem minor in one context can become life-saving in another. This transition also challenges the idea of clear boundaries between animal groups. Birds did not suddenly appear as something new. They emerged gradually from within dinosaurs. The line between dinosaur and bird is blurred, defined more by convention than biology. Studying this transition reveals the power of incremental change. Flight, one of the most complex abilities in nature, did not require sudden innovation. It emerged through a series of functional steps, each favored by natural selection. The story of birds is therefore not separate from the story of dinosaurs. It is the final chapter of dinosaur evolution, one that continues today. Every bird in the sky is a living reminder that dinosaurs did not entirely vanish. They adapted, transformed, and survived. As dinosaur ecosystems reached their greatest complexity during the Cretaceous, birds were already part of that world. They were small, agile, and adaptable. These traits would soon determine the fate of an entire lineage. The next stage of dinosaur evolution would explore social behavior, communication, and complex life strategies beyond simple survival. Dinosaurs were not just animals of size and strength. Many were intelligent, social, and behaviorally sophisticated. To understand the full scope of dinosaur success, it is necessary to look beyond bones and into behavior. The next chapter focuses on how dinosaurs lived together, raised their young, and organized their societies in ways that rival many modern animals. Dinosaurs are often imagined as solitary giants, driven only by instinct and aggression. However, fossil evidence increasingly reveals a far more complex picture. Many dinosaurs lived social lives shaped by communication, cooperation, and parental care. Social behavior was not a minor detail of dinosaur existence. It was a major evolutionary force that influenced survival, reproduction, and long-term success across multiple lineages. One of the strongest lines of evidence for social behavior comes from trackways. Fossilized footprints preserved in ancient mud show multiple dinosaurs moving together in the same direction at the same speed. These tracks are not random. They indicate coordinated group movement. In some cases, trackways include individuals of different sizes, suggesting that adults and juveniles traveled together. This pattern strongly supports the idea of herding. Herding offered several advantages. Moving in groups reduced the risk of predation. Predators were less likely to attack a large, coordinated herd than a lone individual. Even large theropods risked injury when attacking groups. Herds also increased vigilance. More eyes meant earlier detection of danger, giving individuals time to react. For herbivorous dinosaurs, herding also helped locate food. Groups could migrate across landscapes following seasonal plant growth. Large herds may have moved in predictable patterns, shaping vegetation and altering ecosystems over time. This movement helped distribute nutrients and seeds, reinforcing the role of dinosaurs as ecosystem engineers. Social living required communication. Dinosaurs likely used a combination of visual displays, body posture, coloration, and sound to signal one another. Crests, frills, horns, and elongated structures may have functioned partly as communication tools. Different shapes and sizes allowed individuals to recognize members of their own species and assess rivals or mates. Vocal communication was likely important as well. While soft tissues do not fossilize easily, the structure of dinosaur skulls suggests the ability to produce a wide range of sounds. Resonating chambers in crests and nasal passages may have amplified calls. Low-frequency sounds could travel long distances, allowing herds to stay connected even when spread out. Social behavior also extended to reproduction. Nesting sites provide compelling evidence of group breeding. Some dinosaur species return to the same nesting grounds repeatedly, laying eggs in close proximity. These nesting colonies resemble those of modern birds and reptiles. Nesting together offered protection through numbers and allowed collective defense against predators. Parental care varied among dinosaur groups, but evidence shows it was present in many lineages. Fossilized nests with eggs, arranged carefully, suggest deliberate construction rather than random laying. In some cases, adults were found preserved in positions consistent with brooding, covering eggs with their bodies. This behavior indicates temperature regulation and active protection. Juvenile dinosaurs benefited greatly from social structures. Young individuals were vulnerable to predators and environmental stress. Living in groups improved survival rates. Adults may have guarded or guided juveniles, at least during early life stages. This investment increased the likelihood that offspring reached maturity, strengthening population stability. Growth patterns support this interpretation. Bone studies show that many dinosaurs grew rapidly during early life. Fast growth reduced the length of time juveniles remained defenseless. Social protection during this critical period would have further improved survival. Social hierarchies likely existed within groups. Dominance displays using horns, crests, or body size may have established rank without physical conflict. Avoiding injury was crucial, especially for large animals where wounds healed slowly. Visual signaling allowed disputes to be resolved with minimal risk. In some species, evidence suggests intraspecific combat occurred, particularly among males competing for mates. Healed injuries on skulls and frills indicate head-to-head, pushing or ramming. These behaviors resemble those seen in modern animals such as deer or bovines. Such combat likely followed ritualized rules, reducing fatal outcomes. Predatory dinosaurs also displayed signs of social behavior. Bone beds containing multiple individuals of the same species suggest group living or at least tolerance of close proximity. While true cooperative hunting remains debated, it is likely that some theropods benefited from loose coordination. Even simple group pressure could confuse prey or isolate weaker individuals. Social learning may have played a role as well. Juveniles observing adults could learn hunting techniques, migration routes, or feeding preferences. This transmission of behavior reduced the need for instinct alone and allowed faster adaptation to changing environments. Communication between predators may have helped avoid conflict. Territorial signals, vocalizations, or displays could define boundaries and reduce dangerous encounters. Maintaining distance from rivals was often safer than direct confrontation. Sleeping and resting behavior may also have been social. Some dinosaurs may have rested in groups for warmth or protection. Feathers, in many species, would have supported this behavior, providing insulation during rest periods. Environment influenced social structure. Open environments favored large herds where visibility was high. Forested habitats may have supported smaller groups or family units. Flexibility in social organization allowed dinosaurs to adapt to different landscapes. Seasonal behavior likely shaped dinosaur societies. Breeding seasons, migration cycles, and changes in food availability required coordination. Timing reproduction with resource abundance improved offspring survival. Social cues may have synchronized these activities within populations. Disease and injury also influenced social evolution. Living in groups increased disease risk, but it also allowed injured individuals to remain within protective networks. Natural selection balanced these costs and benefits, favoring group sizes that maximized survival. Social behavior influenced evolutionary trajectories. Species with effective group strategies could exploit resources more efficiently, defend themselves better, and recover faster from population losses. This made them more resilient to environmental stress. The presence of complex social behavior challenges outdated views of dinosaurs as primitive. They were not simple animals driven only by instinct. Many exhibited behaviors comparable to modern birds and mammals. Intelligence, learning, and communication were integral to their success. These social dynamics shaped ecosystem structure. Large herds influenced plant growth. Predator groups controlled herbivore populations. Interactions between social groups created dynamic, self-regulating systems. As the Cretaceous period progressed, social complexity likely increased further. Flowering plants altered landscapes, creating patchy resources that favored coordinated movement. Predator-prey interactions became more sophisticated. Communication and cooperation became even more valuable. Understanding dinosaur social behavior also helps explain survival patterns. Species with flexible behavior were better equipped to handle environmental change. Rigid specialists were more vulnerable to disruption. The study of dinosaur behavior remains incomplete, but each new discovery adds depth to our understanding. Trackways, nests, bone beds, and growth patterns together paint a picture of animals deeply shaped by social interaction. Dinosaurs were not just shaped by teeth, claws, or armor. They were shaped by relationships. Cooperation, competition, parenting, and communication all played roles in their evolutionary success. As ecosystems reached peak complexity, dinosaurs occupied every role, from solitary ambush predator to massive herd-forming herbivore. This behavioral diversity was as important as anatomical diversity. Yet, even the most successful social systems could not protect dinosaurs from global catastrophe. Environmental change on a massive scale would soon overwhelm even the most adaptable groups. The next chapter in dinosaur evolution examines the Cretaceous world at its peak, a time when diversity reached its highest point and dinosaurs ruled a planet transformed by new plants, new climates, and new ecological challenges. The Cretaceous period represents the peak of dinosaur diversity, a time when evolution explored its widest range of forms, behaviors, and ecological strategies. By this point, dinosaurs had already dominated land ecosystems for tens of millions of years. What made the Cretaceous unique was not simply continuation, but transformation. The world itself was changing, and dinosaurs evolved in direct response to those changes, reaching levels of specialization and complexity never seen before. One of the most significant shifts of the Cretaceous was the spread of flowering plants. For the first time in Earth's history, angiosperms began to reshape terrestrial ecosystems. These plants grew faster than older gymnosperms, produced fruits and seeds, and formed dense, patchy habitats. This botanical revolution altered food availability, landscape structure, and evolutionary pressure across the planet. Herbivorous dinosaurs responded quickly. New feeding strategies emerged to exploit flowering plants. Beaks became more refined. Tooth batteries evolved, allowing continuous grinding of tough plant material. Some herbivores developed highly specialized jaws capable of processing specific plant types. This shift drove the rise of some of the most successful herbivorous dinosaur groups of the Cretaceous. Among these were horned dinosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, and heavily armored forms. Their skulls became platforms for both feeding and display. Complex dental systems allowed efficient processing of diverse vegetation. These adaptations supported massive populations, which in turn supported equally diverse predator communities. Duck-billed dinosaurs, in particular, exemplified Cretaceous success. They combined advanced chewing ability with social behavior and efficient locomotion. Their tooth batteries allowed constant replacement, ensuring effective feeding throughout life. Evidence suggests they lived in large herds, migrating seasonally across vast distances in search of food. Horned dinosaurs evolved elaborate skull structures, including horns and frills. While these features provided some defense, they also played major roles in social signaling. Variation in horn shape and frill size suggests strong sexual selection. These dinosaurs likely engaged in visual displays and ritualized combat to establish dominance or attract mates. Armored dinosaurs also diversified further. Ankylosaurs reached peak development with near total body armor and massive tail clubs. Their low browsing habits allowed them to exploit plant resources unavailable to larger herbivores. In environments dominated by flowering plants, these low-growing food sources were abundant. Predators evolved alongside these herbivores, adapting to new prey defenses and behaviors. Large theropods developed stronger bites, thicker skulls, and improved neck strength. Some specialized in hunting herd animals, targeting the young or weak. Others became ambush predators, using cover provided by dense vegetation. Smaller predators also flourished. Feathered theropods diversified into agile hunters, capable of exploiting complex habitats. Some specialized in hunting mammals, birds, or insects. Others scavenged or lived as opportunistic feeders. This diversification reduced direct competition and allowed predators to occupy every ecological level. The Cretaceous was also marked by increasing geographic isolation. Continental drift continued, separating landmasses further. North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Europe developed distinct dinosaur faunas. Isolation allowed local adaptation and rapid speciation. Similar ecological roles were filled by different dinosaur groups on different continents. This regional diversification explains why Cretaceous dinosaur assemblages vary so dramatically across the globe. In some regions, horned dinosaurs dominated. In others, sauropods remained abundant. Predator lineages differed as well, each adapted to local prey and terrain. Climate during the Cretaceous was generally warm, with no permanent polar ice caps. Sea levels were high, flooding continental interiors and creating shallow inland seas. Coastlines expanded, producing rich coastal ecosystems. These environments supported diverse plant and animal communities, including dinosaurs adapted to semi-coastal lifestyles. Seasonal variations still existed, but global temperatures were relatively stable. This stability supported large, long-lived populations and complex food webs. In such systems, specialization was rewarded. Dinosaurs evolved highly specific traits optimized for particular diets, habitats, or social structures. Reproduction strategies became increasingly refined. Nesting sites show evidence of repeated use and colony formation. Some species like to return to the same locations year after year to breed. Parental care, particularly among birds and bird-like dinosaurs, improved offspring survival. Juvenile dinosaurs occupied different ecological niches than adults. This age-based separation reduced competition within species and allowed populations to support large numbers. Young individuals often fed on different plants or prey, gradually shifting roles as they matured. Behavioral complexity increased alongside anatomical specialization. Communication through visual display, sound, and movement became more important in crowded ecosystems. Social hierarchies, mating rituals, and cooperative behaviors likely intensified. Predator-prey interactions reached new levels of sophistication. Herbivores evolved coordinated group defense strategies. Predators adapted hunting techniques to exploit weaknesses in herd structure. This dynamic created continuous evolutionary pressure, driving rapid adaptation on both sides. Small mammals also diversified during the Cretaceous, living in the shadows of dinosaurs. Many were nocturnal, burrowing, or arboreal, avoiding direct competition. Their evolution was influenced by dinosaur-dominated ecosystems, shaping traits that would later become critical after dinosaur extinction. Birds continued to diversify as well. Flight styles varied from gliding to active flapping. Some birds became strong flyers. Others specialized in running or swimming. Their ability to exploit aerial and arboreal niches allowed them to coexist with dinosaurs without direct competition. The Cretaceous world was one of layered ecosystems. Towering herbivores shaped forests. Mid-sized dinosaurs filled plains and woodlands. Small animals occupied undergrowth, trees, and water edges. Predators operated at every level. Energy flowed through complex networks. This complexity made ecosystems productive, but also fragile. Highly specialized species depended on stable conditions. Changes in climate, vegetation, or sea level could ripple through food webs. Resilience depended on diversity and flexibility. Volcanic activity increased during the later Cretaceous. Massive eruptions released gases that altered climate and ocean chemistry. While ecosystems often recovered, these events introduced stress and periodic disruption. Dinosaurs adapted, but pressure was mounting. As the Cretaceous progressed, some dinosaur lineages began to decline regionally. Fossil records show reduced diversity in certain groups before the final extinction. These patterns suggest ecosystems were under strain, though dinosaurs remained dominant overall. Competition among herbivores intensified as flowering plants spread unevenly. Patchy resources favored migration and territorial behavior. Dinosaurs that could move efficiently or defend resources had advantages. Others became more specialized and vulnerable. Predators faced similar challenges. Changes in prey distribution required behavioral flexibility. Those unable to adapt declined. Evolutionary success increasingly favored intelligence, social coordination, and adaptability. The Cretaceous represents the climax of dinosaur evolution, where diversity, specialization, and ecological dominance reached their highest levels. Dinosaurs had filled every major terrestrial niche. They were not just large animals. They were the foundation of planetary ecosystems. Yet, this peak contained the seeds of vulnerability. Specialization reduced flexibility. Large body size increased resource demands. Complex food webs depended on stable primary productivity. When disruption came, these systems would struggle to recover. The Cretaceous world was dynamic, vibrant, and deeply interconnected. Dinosaurs were at the center of this world, shaping and being shaped by every aspect of their environment. Their success was unparalleled, but not invincible. As this era drew toward its end, forces beyond evolution were gathering. Geological processes intensified. Space-borne threats loomed unknowingly. The stability that had allowed dinosaurs to flourish for millions of years was about to be shattered. The next chapter explores the warning signs that appeared before the final catastrophe. Long before the asteroid struck, Earth was already changing. Volcanic activity, climate instability, and shifting seas placed increasing pressure on dinosaur ecosystems. To understand the end of dinosaurs, it is first necessary to understand how even the most successful systems can be pushed toward collapse. The story continues, not with sudden extinction, but with subtle decline and mounting stress in a world approaching its breaking point. Long before the asteroid impact ended the age of dinosaurs, the Cretaceous world was already under strain. Extinction is often imagined as a sudden moment, but in reality it is usually preceded by long periods of stress, instability, and gradual decline. During the final millions of years of the Cretaceous, Earth's systems began to shift in ways that challenged even the most successful dinosaur lineages. These changes did not immediately wipe dinosaurs out, but they weakened ecosystems and reduced their resilience, setting the stage for catastrophe. One of the most significant sources of stress was volcanic activity. Massive eruptions occurred over extended periods, most notably in what is now India. These eruptions released enormous volumes of lava, forming vast basalt plateaus. More importantly, they released huge amounts of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and other gases into the atmosphere. This altered global climate and atmospheric chemistry on a scale few organisms could easily adapt to. Carbon dioxide increases led to long-term warming, while sulfur aerosols caused short-term cooling by reflecting sunlight back into space. This combination produced unstable climate patterns. Temperatures fluctuated. Rainfall patterns shifted. Seasons became less predictable. Ecosystems that had evolved under relatively stable conditions struggled to adjust to rapid swings. Plants were among the first to be affected. Flowering plants had diversified widely during the Cretaceous, but many species were sensitive to climate changes. Altered rainfall disrupted growth cycles. Prolonged droughts reduced productivity in some regions, while excessive rainfall caused flooding in others. When primary producers declined or became unstable, the effects cascaded upward through the food web. Herbivorous dinosaurs depended on reliable plant availability. Large-bodied species in particular required enormous amounts of food. Even small reductions in plant productivity could have serious consequences. Evidence from fossil records suggests that some herbivore populations began to fragment regionally. Species that had once been widespread became more localized. As herbivore populations declined or shifted, predators were affected in turn. Large theropods relied on abundant prey. Reduced prey density, increased competition among predators, and raised the risk of starvation. Predators may have been forced to travel farther, hunt smaller or less optimal prey, or compete more intensely with rivals. This increased competition likely led to higher mortality. Injuries sustained during hunting or conflict could be fatal. Fewer resources meant less energy available for reproduction. Predator populations became more vulnerable to further environmental disruption.
Sea level changes also played a major role in late Cretaceous instability. Global sea levels were high, but they fluctuated repeatedly.
Shallow inland seas expanded and retreated, flooding coastal plains and then exposing them again. These changes destroyed habitats and fragmented populations. Migration routes were disrupted. Breeding grounds were lost. Coastal ecosystems were particularly affected. Many dinosaurs lived in or near coastal plains, where vegetation was rich and diverse. Repeated flooding forced animals to relocate or adapt quickly. Not all species could do so. Those with narrow habitat preferences suffered most. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere may also have declined slightly during this time. While not catastrophic on their own, lower oxygen levels would have stressed large animals with high metabolic demands. Even small physiological disadvantages can become critical under prolonged stress. Another important factor was specialization. By the late Cretaceous, Many dinosaur species were highly specialized. Their teeth, jaws, limbs, and behaviors were finely tuned to specific diets and environments. Specialization is advantageous in stable conditions, but it reduces flexibility. When environments change rapidly, specialists struggle to adapt. Generalist species, capable of exploiting multiple food sources or habitats, likely fared better during this period. Fossil evidence suggests that some smaller dinosaurs and birds showed greater resilience. Large, highly specialized herbivores and predators were more vulnerable. Reproductive strategies also influenced survival. Dinosaurs laid eggs, often in specific nesting environments. Climate instability affected nesting success. Temperature and humidity influence egg development. Flooding could destroy nests. Drought could desiccate eggs. Repeated nesting failures reduced population growth. Juvenile survival rates likely declined as well. Young dinosaurs are more sensitive to environmental stress than adults. Reduced food availability, temperature extremes, and increased predation pressure all disproportionately affected juveniles. Populations with fewer surviving young could not replace losses effectively. Disease may have become a more significant factor under these conditions. Stressed populations are more susceptible to pathogens. While direct evidence of disease is rare in fossils, it is reasonable to infer increased disease pressure in crowded, stressed ecosystems. Social behavior, once an advantage, may have become a liability in some cases. Large herds required large amounts of food. When resources declined, herds could overgraze areas, worsening shortages. Competition within groups increased. Migration became more difficult as routes were disrupted. Regional differences became more pronounced. Some areas remained relatively productive and stable, supporting diverse dinosaur communities. Others experienced sharp declines. This patchwork of conditions led to uneven survival patterns across the globe. Continental separation amplified these effects. Isolated populations could not be replenished by migration from healthier regions. Local extinctions became permanent. Once a species disappeared from a region, it could not easily return. Marine ecosystems were also under stress. Plankton populations fluctuated due to changing ocean chemistry and temperature. This affected marine food webs and indirectly influenced terrestrial ecosystems through nutrient cycles and climate feedbacks. Volcanic activity also contributed to acid rain. Sulfur compounds in the atmosphere formed acids that fell with precipitation. Acid rain damaged vegetation, altered soil chemistry, and affected freshwater systems. Plants weakened by acid stress produced less biomass, further reducing food availability. Despite these challenges, dinosaurs did not immediately decline everywhere. Many lineages persisted and even thrived locally. Evolution continued. New species appeared. Ecosystems adjusted where possible. This resilience highlights how robust dinosaur-dominated systems had become. However, resilience has limits. Repeated stress without sufficient recovery time gradually erodes stability. Each disruption reduces population sizes, genetic diversity, and ecological redundancy. Systems become increasingly brittle. Fossil evidence from the final few million years of the Cretaceous shows signs of reduced diversity in some dinosaur groups. This does not indicate imminent extinction on its own, but it suggests that ecosystems were no longer expanding or diversifying as they once had. Energy flow through ecosystems slowed, fewer plants, meant less energy available to support large animals. Predators became more reliant on scavenging. Competition intensified. Marginal habitats were abandoned. This period of decline was uneven and complex. There was no single global collapse before the asteroid. Instead, there was a gradual weakening of systems punctuated by regional recoveries and setbacks. Dinosaurs were still dominant, but their dominance was no longer unchallenged. Birds and small mammals showed signs of increasing diversification during this time. Their small size, flexible diets, and rapid reproduction gave them advantages under unstable conditions. They were not replacing dinosaurs, but they were quietly expanding their roles. The late Cretaceous world was one of tension. Ecosystems were productive but strained. Biodiversity was high but fragile. Dinosaurs remained the most visible and influential animals, yet their margins of safety were shrinking. This context is critical for understanding what happened next. The asteroid impact did not strike a world at peak strength. It struck a world already stressed by millions of years of environmental instability. When a system is healthy and resilient, it can absorb shocks. When it is weakened, even a single extreme event can cause collapse. The late Cretaceous ecosystems had reached this vulnerable state. The signs were subtle and easily overlooked in the fossil record. No single warning screamed of impending doom. Instead, there were quiet indicators: shrinking ranges, fragmented populations, increased specialization, reduced recovery after disturbances. Dinosaurs had survived countless challenges before. They had endured mass extinctions, climate shifts, and continental rearrangements. But survival in the past does not guarantee survival in the future. Each challenge leaves its mark. By the final moments of the Cretaceous, dinosaurs were living in a world that demanded flexibility and resilience at every level. Some lineages possessed these traits. Many did not. The stage was set. Ecosystems were stretched thin. Food webs were vulnerable. Populations were fragmented. When the asteroid struck, it would not face a world prepared to recover. The next chapter is the moment that defines the end of the dinosaur era, the impact that darkened skies, collapsed food chains, and brought an abrupt end to more than 160 million years of dominance. But to fully understand that moment, it must be seen not as an isolated disaster, but as the final blow to a system already pushed close to its limits. The end of the age of dinosaurs is often reduced to a single moment, a fiery impact from space that changed the course of life on Earth. While this moment was brief on a geological timescale, its consequences were vast, immediate, and irreversible. Around 66 million years ago, a large asteroid struck the planet, delivering a shock so extreme that it reshaped global environments in a matter of hours, days, and weeks. For non-avian dinosaurs, this event marked the end. The asteroid was approximately 10 to 15 kilometers wide and traveled at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. When it struck, it hit what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The energy released was equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs detonating simultaneously. The impact instantly vaporized rock, water, and everything living near the site. Temperatures at ground zero rose to levels hotter than the surface of the sun, if only for a moment. Within seconds, a massive shockwave radiated outward. Forests were flattened. Animals were killed instantly across thousands of kilometers. Earthquakes rippled through the planet, triggering landslides and volcanic activity far from the impact site. The ground itself rang with violence as Earth absorbed the blow. A towering plume of debris shot into the atmosphere, reaching far beyond the stratosphere. Molten rock, ash, and pulverized material were hurled into space before falling back to Earth. As this debris re-entered the atmosphere, it heated the air globally. The sky itself became a source of heat. This re-entry phase triggered a phenomenon known as global thermal radiation. For hours, possibly days, intense heat scorched the planet's surface. Vegetation ignited. Forests burned across continents. Even areas far from the impact experienced sudden, widespread fires. The planet entered a state of near total wildfire. These fires consumed vast amounts of oxygen and released enormous quantities of smoke and soot into the atmosphere. Combined with dust from the impact, this material formed a dense global cloud. Sunlight was blocked. Within days, Earth entered darkness. This darkness marked the beginning of the most lethal phase of the extinction. Photosynthesis halted almost completely. Plants could no longer produce energy. Without plants, herbivores had nothing to eat. Without herbivores, predators quickly followed. The collapse of food chains was swift and unforgiving. Temperatures dropped rapidly. Despite the initial heat, the loss of sunlight caused a dramatic cooling known as an impact winter. Global temperatures may have fallen by several degrees within weeks. Freezing conditions spread even to regions that had been warm for millions of years. For dinosaurs, especially large-bodied species, these changes were catastrophic. Large animals require constant food intake. They cannot survive long without steady energy sources. As plants died and herbivore populations collapsed, large predators starved. Egg-laying reproduction added another layer of vulnerability. Dinosaurs could not give birth to live young that might survive on stored energy. Eggs exposed to cold, darkness, and environmental chaos failed to develop. Entire breeding seasons were lost. Acid rain followed. The impact vaporized sulfur-rich rocks, releasing sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. When combined with water vapor, this formed sulfuric acid. Acid rain fell across the planet, poisoning freshwater systems and damaging surviving vegetation. Soils became hostile to plant regrowth. Oceans were not spared. Shockwaves triggered massive tsunamis that swept coastlines. Acidification increased as gases dissolved into seawater. Plankton populations collapsed. Marine food webs broke down, mirroring the devastation on land. The extinction did not happen everywhere at the same speed, but it was global. Some dinosaurs may have survived weeks or months after the impact, scavenging or feeding on the last remaining plants. But recovery was impossible. The conditions required for large, specialized animals no longer existed. Smaller animals fared better, though survival was still uncertain. Small mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians could hide, burrow, or find shelter. They required less food and could survive on varied diets. Some could enter states of reduced activity, conserving energy. Birds, as feathered theropods, possessed several advantages. Feathers provided insulation against cold. Flight allowed movement to safer areas or access to scarce food. Some birds could feed on seeds or aquatic organisms which persisted longer than terrestrial plants. Even so, many bird lineages went extinct. Only a small fraction survived the initial catastrophe. Those that did were likely small, ground-dwelling or semi-aquatic species with flexible diets. The extinction unfolded in stages. The first stage was immediate destruction from heat, shock waves, and fires. The second stage was prolonged darkness and cold. The third stage involved long-term ecological collapse as ecosystems failed to recover. Non-avian dinosaurs disappeared during this process. None were able to persist through the prolonged environmental instability. Their size, specialization, and reproductive strategies worked against them in a world where flexibility and low energy demand were essential. It is important to understand that dinosaurs did not fail because they were inferior. They failed because the world changed faster and more violently than evolution could respond. Traits that had ensured success for millions of years became liabilities under extreme conditions. The asteroid impact also reshaped Earth's geology. A massive crater formed, hidden today beneath sediments. Seismic waves altered fault lines. Volcanic activity may have been intensified by the impact, further contributing to atmospheric disruption. The skies remained dark for months, possibly years. Without sunlight, even surviving plants struggled to regrow. Ecosystems entered a long recovery phase. Life persisted, but at reduced complexity. The end of dinosaurs marks one of the clearest examples of contingency in evolution. If the asteroid had missed Earth by a small margin, dinosaurs might have continued to dominate. Their extinction was not inevitable. It was the result of a rare, external event. This event did not erase all life. Instead, it reset the evolutionary landscape. With dinosaurs gone, ecological niches were emptied. Predators, herbivores, and large animals were absent. The stage was cleared for a new cast. The extinction also demonstrates how interconnected life is. The loss of plants doomed animals. The loss of plankton affected oceans. No organism exists in isolation. When foundational systems collapse, even the most powerful species cannot survive. From a distance, the extinction may appear sudden. In reality, it was a cascade. One failure triggered another. Food webs unraveled, populations declined, reproduction ceased. Extinction followed. The asteroid impact did not discriminate. It affected land and sea, north and south, predator and prey. The randomness of survival reshaped life's future. Those that happened to possess the right traits endured, those that did not vanished. This moment marks the boundary between two worlds. Before the impact, dinosaurs defined terrestrial life. After it, they were gone. The Earth that emerged was colder, darker, and biologically simplified. Yet within this devastation lay opportunity. Survivors faced little competition. New evolutionary pathways opened. Small mammals, birds, and other groups began to expand, slowly filling the empty spaces. The extinction of dinosaurs is often seen as an ending. It is more accurately a transformation. It ended one dominant chapter of life, but it also allowed another to begin. The age of dinosaurs closed not with gradual decline, but with abrupt finality. Fire, darkness, and cold erased a lineage that had ruled for over 160 million years. But extinction does not erase history. Dinosaurs left their mark on the planet. Their bones became fossils. Their adaptations lived on in birds. Their ecological influence shaped the path that followed. The final chapter of dinosaur evolution is not written in ash and fire alone. It is written in what came after. To understand the true legacy of dinosaurs, we must look beyond their extinction and into the world that rose from their absence. The next and final chapter explores that legacy. How dinosaurs continue to shape life today, how birds carry their lineage forward, and how the story of dinosaurs did not truly end, but transformed into something new. The extinction of non-avian dinosaurs marked the end of one era, but it did not erase the influence they had on life on Earth. Their legacy extends far beyond their disappearance, shaping ecosystems, evolution, and even our understanding of biology to this day. Dinosaurs did not vanish without a trace. They transformed the planet during their reign and left behind descendants that still inhabit it. The story of dinosaurs does not conclude with extinction. It continues through inheritance, adaptation, and discovery. The most direct legacy of dinosaurs lives in birds. Every bird alive today is a living dinosaur descended from small, feathered theropods that survived the end Cretaceous catastrophe. The features that define birds are not new inventions. Feathers, hollow bones, efficient lungs, and egg-laying reproduction all evolved in dinosaurs long before birds diversified. When birds fly, they are expressing ancient adaptations shaped in a world ruled by giants. Birds retain many behavioral traits inherited from their dinosaur ancestors. Nesting, brooding, vocal communication, and complex social interactions all have deep evolutionary roots. The way birds care for their young reflects behaviors already present in non-avian dinosaurs. Even courtship displays using feathers and movement, echo-signaling strategies developed millions of years ago. The survival of birds reshaped post-extinction ecosystems. With large terrestrial dinosaurs gone, ecological niches were empty. Birds expanded rapidly into new roles. Some became predators. Others specialized in seed dispersal, insect control, or scavenging. Flight allowed birds to colonize environments quickly, from forests to islands to open oceans. Dinosaurs also left an indirect legacy through the evolutionary pathways they influenced during their dominance. Mammals remained small, nocturnal, and adaptable. These traits were shaped by the need to coexist with dinosaurs. When dinosaurs vanished, mammals already possessed the flexibility needed to expand into vacant niches. The rise of mammals, including humans, is therefore linked to dinosaur history. Ecosystems that developed after the extinction were built upon foundations shaped by dinosaurs. Soil composition, plant distribution, and nutrient cycles had been influenced for millions of years by dinosaur activity. Even after dinosaurs disappeared, these altered landscapes affected how new ecosystems formed. The extinction itself offers critical lessons about resilience and vulnerability. Dinosaurs were highly successful, diverse, and dominant, yet they were still vulnerable to rapid extreme change. Their extinction reminds us that no species, no matter how powerful, is immune to environmental catastrophe. This insight is increasingly relevant in a world facing rapid climate change. Dinosaurs also transformed scientific understanding. For much of history, they were viewed as slow, cold-blooded reptiles. Modern research has overturned this view. Dinosaurs are now understood as active, dynamic animals, many with high metabolic rates, complex behavior, and social structures. This shift has changed how scientists think about evolution, physiology, and the boundaries between animal groups. The discovery of feathers in dinosaur fossils revolutionized paleontology. It confirmed the dinosaur-bird connection and forced a re-evaluation of how traits evolve. Feathers demonstrated that complex structures can evolve for one function and later be repurposed for another. This concept of exaptation is now central to evolutionary biology. Dinosaurs have also reshaped our understanding of extinction. Their disappearance illustrates how external events, such as asteroid impacts, can override gradual evolutionary processes. This challenges the idea that evolution always proceeds slowly and predictably. It highlights the role of chance and contingency in shaping life's history. Culturally, dinosaurs hold a unique place. They capture human imagination like few other animals. Their size, diversity, and mystery inspire curiosity across generations. Dinosaurs serve as gateways into science, drawing people into geology, biology, and astronomy. Their story connects Earth to the cosmos, reminding us that life on this planet is influenced by events far beyond it. Technological advances continue to deepen our understanding of dinosaurs. Imaging techniques reveal bone microstructure and growth patterns. Chemical analysis uncovers diet and metabolism. Computer modeling reconstructs movement and behavior. Each new method brings dinosaurs closer to life, transforming fossils from static remains into dynamic records of living organisms. New discoveries constantly reshape the dinosaur narrative. Fossils from unexpected regions reveal previously unknown species. Trackways provide insight into movement and social behavior. Nesting sites reveal reproductive strategies. The story of dinosaurs is not fixed. It evolves with each discovery. Dinosaurs also inform modern conservation biology. Studying how ecosystems collapsed in the past helps scientists understand how current ecosystems might respond to stress. The dinosaur extinction highlights the importance of biodiversity and redundancy. Ecosystems with greater diversity recover more effectively than those dominated by a few specialized species. The legacy of dinosaurs extends into climate science as well. Their long reign occurred during greenhouse conditions with high carbon dioxide levels. Studying how dinosaurs and plants interacted with these climates helps scientists model future climate scenarios. Understanding past warm worlds provides context for current environmental change. In evolutionary terms, dinosaurs demonstrate the power of adaptability. They survived multiple extinction events, climate shifts, and continental rearrangements. Their success was built on flexibility, efficiency, and innovation. Their failure came not from weakness, but from an unprecedented disruption that overwhelmed even the most resilient systems. The story of dinosaurs also challenges how we define success. Dinosaurs ruled for over 160 million years. Humans, by comparison, have existed for a fraction of that time. Longevity on such a scale redefines evolutionary achievement. Dinosaurs were among the most successful animals to ever exist. Their extinction paved the way for intelligence to emerge in new forms. Mammals diversified, eventually giving rise to primates and humans. In this sense, dinosaurs indirectly shaped the conditions that allowed human civilization to develop. Without their extinction, the world would be unrecognizable. Yet dinosaurs are not merely ancestors or stepping stones. They were complete, complex animals in their own right. Their value does not lie only in what came after them, but in what they were. Understanding dinosaurs means appreciating a world that functioned differently from our own, yet was equally rich and dynamic. The continued presence of birds keeps dinosaurs in our daily lives. Every time a bird takes flight, sings, builds a nest, or cares for its young, it carries forward a lineage older than forests, older than flowers. Dinosaurs are not relics confined to museums. They are alive, flying overhead. Dinosaurs also remind us of Earth's deep time. Their story spans continents and epochs, dwarfing human history. This perspective challenges short-term thinking and highlights the scale of planetary change. It places humanity within a much larger narrative of life. The fascination with dinosaurs endures because their story is both alien and familiar. They lived in worlds unlike ours, yet they face challenges that resonate today. Survival, adaptation, competition, and extinction are universal themes. The legacy of dinosaurs is not only scientific, it is philosophical. It forces us to confront impermanence and resilience, chance and consequence. It reminds us that dominance is temporary and that life continues in unexpected ways. The age of dinosaurs ended in fire and darkness, but their influence did not end. It transformed. Through birds, through ecosystems, through scientific discovery, dinosaurs continue to shape the world. Their story is not just about the past. It is about continuity. Life adapts, transforms, and persists. Extinction closes chapters, but it also opens new ones. Dinosaurs ruled the earth, fell to catastrophe, and yet survived in another form. In that sense, they never truly disappeared. The evolution of dinosaurs is therefore not a closed book. It is an ongoing story, written in feathers, fossils, and living skies.